Believe it or not, you're now listening to episode 10 of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast. We've made it to 10, everyone. Thank you very much to the various people out there who have supported us from episode 1 through to where we reside now. It's really cool. So there you go. Who would have thought we would have done it? But we have. And the proof is, you're listening to it. So that's great. So this is, if it wasn't already obvious, the Lookout Sir 40k podcast featuring my good self Dan, and joined as ever as my buddy Phil. How's it going, Phil?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
I always crash your vocals by saying, how's it going, buddy, at the end of introducing you. You always sort of come in and then I do my thing over the top of you. I've noticed that when I'm going back and editing this on multiple occasions, but let it be. You're okay with that, Phil? Does that not offend you?
I'm sure I'll cope.
You're sure you'll cope? Well, you've been dealing with it for 9 episodes up to this point, so I think, if we can get this far, it's all groovy. What have you been doing lately, Phil, in the exciting world of Warhammer 40,000 hobbies?
I've been building this Marauder bomber still, and I've been listening to Magos, the new Inquisitor Eisenhorn novel, and I've got a couple of pages left, or more accurately, about half an hour's worth of audio to listen to.
Oh, wow.
So I'm right at the very end.
And what are you going to follow it up with, though, once you've finished it? Where are you going to move on to?
Oh, I've got a load of them, because I've got loads of Audible credits that I've been spending. So I'm probably going to do the Dark Imperium audiobook, which I've got.
I, like you, have also accrued a ridiculous sum of Audible credits. Although, weirdly, even though I have loads of Audible credits, I still bought Horus Rising for £2.50 on Black Friday because I was like, well, it's only £2.50. Why use one of these 12 credits when it's only £2.50? Man.
Well, exactly. I almost bought that one, but I thought I'd save Horus Heresy for a later date, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically a mixed bag of sort of new stories, like short stories, but there was still about 11 hours of audio in it, so I was like, that's a bargain.
They are long. They are freaking long. On the topic of things which are long, is a man who is not long, arguably not even a thing. It's good old Joe. How's it going, Joe?
I'm alright.
There was something that someone called you on one of our various social media channels the other day. I can't remember what it was. I'm desperate to find what they said, but they said they summarised you perfectly in, I think it was in response to your Blackstone Fortress review, or unboxing rather. So once I discover that, I will share it with you, but it was good. I thought it was a good summary of you. Whoever that was and whatever it said, it was good. Better than I could have come up with, and even so good that I've forgotten it. But how have you felt with your newfound fame from doing an unboxing video that seems to have been relatively positively received?
Well, it's changed my life now. I shop at Marks and Spencer's, no longer Tesco's.
Ooh.
I can't go in there without getting surrounded by all of no people, but it's fine.
And you find that shopping at Marks and Spencer's has kept you safe for the marauding hordes that want your...
They're calmer.
What's that, sorry?
They're calmer in there.
Are they? They're more subdued by the sounds and the sights.
Obviously, my mum congratulated me on my newfound fame. So that was great. She's my biggest fan. And then my partner's entire family repeatedly just say the phrase "shiver me timbers" to me all day. It's great. It's like new annoying catchphrase.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. Well, be sure to try and shoehorn in "shiver me timbers" as much as you can now to really kind of take it to the next level.
I think going to Heat 3, I kind of feel like I need to get a T-shirt with it printed on so people know that it's me.
Well, it's still time, man. We can make it happen. We're only now a week and a half away, this being Wednesday, the 28th of November, when we're recording. So, you could get it done, mate. With all your millions of newfound internet monies, you can make that happen, right?
Yeah. So all my, what is it called? E-credit, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Your bitcoins.
My Bitcoin, yeah. I'm drowning in it. It's a shame that it's not a physical thing.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know anything about Bitcoin.
As was evident from what you just said, because if you had lots of Bitcoin, you actually would be theoretically, if not actually, quite well off. But there you go.
Yeah, Facebook tells me that it's a thing.
That's true. I do enjoy them constantly trying to release new cryptocurrencies, but I feel like we're going to go off on a massive tangent there. And there's still, believe it or not, one more person that needs introducing, because last week we had Tim talking about his Grand Tournament Heat 3 army, and now, to carry on in that tradition, we're joined all the way from the United States of America, dear old Richard. How you doing, Rich?
Hello. I'm doing alright. I'm doing good. Doing good. I've taken a break from my painting ready for the Grand Tournament to be on this wonderful podcast with you fine chaps.
You were calling it a world famous podcast before. You were on this podcast, I think, was episode 3, maybe episode 4, but since then, obviously, we've developed and evolved into this incredible entity. Are you intimidated by the responsibility of appearing here today?
I am. To hear you guys talk about your newfound fame, I am very intimidated to be joining this group now. There's a lot of pressure now. I don't have a catchphrase or anything, so there's a lot to live up to be part of this crew. But I'm very honoured to be a part of it.
Well, we're honoured to have you, my friend. Honoured indeed. Are you? What have you been up to then? So it sounds like you've been doing an absolute truckload of painting. Is that more or less the case?
Yes, that is very, very case. I decided to stop just umming and ahhing over which of my models to take and decided I should probably paint them first, because otherwise I won't have enough time. So yeah, I painted up all of my Elysian drop troopers that I'll be taking. In fact, I painted more than I will be taking, so I've got some options. And so that was a fun couple of days of just blitzing through all of them to get to my stapled tabletop ready paint quality, which is great from a distance, not quite as good as you guys up close, but from a distance it looks just as good.
Well, it's very kind of you to include me in the statement of you guys. I feel like you're probably aiming that statement more towards Phil and Joe, but
it's also aimed at you as well, just to give an idea of how not good mine are up close.
Oh, look at that! You give with one and you take away with the other. I appreciate it. Thank you. But there we go. So there we are. We have our full complement of 4 people. And yeah, this is, as I've already said, episode 10 of the Luxus 40k podcast. A couple of things just to cover off at the very first beginning point. Unless anyone has anything specific they want to throw in right now before I start talking about other things. There we go. The sound of whatever that was suggests that not. So let's briefly talk about, me and Joe went to a doubles tournament on the weekend, didn't we, Joe?
We did. It was great. So much fun.
It was by Attrition Wargaming, based in Eastleigh, who are associated to a shop that I can't remember the name of, but that's in Eastleigh also. Something to do with Hornby trains. I was having a chat to him about it. One of the UK's or Europe's biggest distributor of Hornby components or something. I was like, ooh, yeah. That's exciting.
They like trains down there. It was held in the Railway Institute building of Eastleigh as well,
which was bizarrely nowhere near a railway.
Yeah. But very close to an airport. I was like, they've got this mixed up.
The trains of the future. Or the
Did Games Workshop use this as an opportunity to announce the return of the squat land train?
Well, given that it wasn't officially associated with Games Workshop in any way, shape or form, I think that would have been a mad thing if they just rocked up, had Duncan rolled out and gone, ah! That would have been quite something. But there you go. It didn't happen. One day soon, but certainly not now. Anyway, yes. So we went along. Oh, hello. There we go. Reminded me of the old American delay there. Please.
I was going to say, do you want to tell us how well you did in the tournament?
I do want to tell you how well I was doing in the tournament. I was just getting onto it. We came second. Is the short version of the story. Joe, do you feel like you need to elaborate in any way, shape, or form above that or beyond that?
We came second with 3 wins, 2 majors and a minor. Had we have made that minor a major, we probably would have come first, actually.
Quite likely.
Looking at the points difference between secondaries.
And also one of the sincere benefits of playing with an internet celebrity, the likes of which has never been seen before, and of course I'm talking about Joe, is that we got a lot of favourite game votes as well. So we were given the incredible prize of best people in the room according to a relatively limited panel of individuals. So there you go. We were the best examples of humanity on display that day. Would you not agree?
It's great, yet also disturbing.
Exactly.
Because there were some very charming people there, and I honestly thought that the people that we played against last would have actually got it, because they were very nice chaps.
Oh, what, Toby and Jim?
Toby and Jim. Which sounds a lot like...
Rosie and Jim.
Rosie and Jim, yeah, the ones that live on the barge, the creepy ones.
I was almost going to break into the Rosie and Jim theme song, replacing Rosie for Toby, but then I remembered that I did that last episode, and it was horrendous. Although I didn't do the Rosie and Jim music, I did a different song.
There must be people that have never heard of Rosie and Jim.
Well, exactly. Well, go out there and find the Rosie and Jim theme music and then replace Rosie for Toby, and that would describe the duo that we played in the last game, who were actually really lovely lads. The guys we played in the middle game were also super cool, although at the start of the game they had a very weird proposition for us, which I was a little bit like, okay, that was a strange thing to say. They were interested, apparently, in watching me and Joe perform some kind of act on each other, which was a very odd conversational start.
But, each to their own.
Absolutely. But just a very odd way to break the ice, I felt. But, still. Yeah. Good game. They were playing Knights and Zench Demons. By the way, Toby and Jim were playing Blood Angels and Imperial Guard, or rather Astra Militarum.
It was Vostroyans as well, which you don't see very often.
Actually used as the actual things that they were, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was quite incredible.
And what were you guys taking?
Well, Joe, do you want to say what was in your army list first?
Well, we took that old school duo that have worked together since the end of time, or the beginning of time, just all time in general, of Eldar and Mechanicum.
Well, if you think about it, though, that is quite an ancient and traditional combination, because the Golden Throne is based on Eldari or Elder technology, maintained and created, if not overseen, by the Mechanicus. So that's what we were doing it for, in the name of the Emperor and the Golden Throne. And synergy.
And during the fall of Cadia, they were all bro-fisting.
They were.
All the time.
Exactly. Belisarius Call and some pointy-eared people hung out all the time. And in the name of that, synergy, we thought that it was an appropriate combination. So I had 3 Hemlocks, because I'm nothing if not predictable that way. Aldred Ulfran, and a unit of 20 Guardians with 2 missile platforms in a patrol. So it was a sky-fly thing of LLL Hemlocks, Aldred Ulfran, and 20 Guardians with 2 weapons platforms. So that was fun and fair and fluffy. What did you take, Joe?
I took battalion of 3 squads of 5 Skitarii, Tech Priest Engineer, Tech Priest Dominus, and then a super heavy detachment with 2 Armiger Helverins and a Knight Gallant. It was all very fluff.
Yet even with that combination of beardy, horrible armies, people thought we were the funnest people to play against. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, I often find, weirdly, that the guys who normally win events, especially the Warhammer World stuff, the guy who wins the event most often also gets all the favourite game votes. It's like people enjoy losing. It's very strange.
Well, again, I can only put it down to your newfound internet fan base or celebrity, right?
I hope so.
But there you go. So yeah, and actually, oddly, and in the name of it being an actually really viable and fluffy combo, the very first people we played in the tournament, a father-son combination, of which I can't remember the names of either, but a father-son combination, was running the exact same combination. Not the same army lists, but it was Eldari and Mechanicus again. So, can't have just been us trying to harness the true fluffy nature of 40k, because other people did it too. So,
Yeah.
It's all fine. So there we go.
Well, so the guys who won it were running that old combo of Magnus and Custodes.
Yeah, that popular combo. They're bringing back the burning of Prospero, but in a very odd way.
Yeah, maybe they're fans of the the internet series if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device. Because in that, Magnus is a good guy now.
Makes sense. I mean, technically, he was always a good guy in the first place, really, until he became quite a bad guy. I would say his once upon a time good intentions have clearly been twisted into some very, very evil deeds indeed. But, you know.
And like they say, Magnus did nothing wrong.
Except tear a hole in real space into the throne room of terror, almost engulfing the home world of humanity into the warp. But yeah, other than that, he did nothing wrong.
But that was a mistake.
Wasn't he only doing that to warn the Emperor that there was problems coming, though? Wasn't that the only reason?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But,
I think Magnus was robbed and was clearly not valued. I say that as a Thousand Son fan.
I suppose then it's the question of whether the intention necessarily, whether the just because he didn't intend to do that, whether it still makes it right. Again, though, I don't want to get into some weird legal situation, precedent type thing, because I clearly don't know the correct language to express that situation. There's probably a very legal terminology to describe that situation, but there we go. So yeah. This is episode 10, as I keep saying. Obviously, thank you very much to everyone who's supported us to getting to this point. We're obviously really appreciative of everyone who has listened to us on Spotify, iTunes, the various other podcast providers, and obviously subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you very much to our presently 120 subscribers. Long may that continue in the positive upward trajectory. We really appreciate it. Thank you. So, today, we're going to be talking about, first and foremost, the Vigilus Open Day. Now, obviously, this is somewhat old news, but it has still 3 days on dominated all of the conversation and communication around 40k, and we, being the humble podcast that we are, cannot really ignore the importance of the Vigilus Open Day and everything that came from it. So we will go through that in the order by which it appears on the Warhammer community website. So if any of you want to listen along at home or look at the kind of supplementary material available on Warhammer Community, please go to their Warhammer Community Vigilus Open Day post and play along at home. That would be lovely. And then moving on from that, once we've gone through all the various topics that are incorporated within that one overarching topic, i.e. Marneus Calgar, the new Genestealer cults, that new Titan model, the Vigilus campaign book, other stuff that I can't remember off the top of my head, Noise Marines, they're all very exciting stuff that we're going to talk about there. We're then going to close out the podcast in the tradition of things, asking Richard to tell us all about his Grand Tournament heat-free army list for Warhammer 40,000 and the tournament soon to come. So Richard will take us through his current plans for that, and that will then obviously close out episode 10. So with that said, gentlemen, I'm going to make some transitional noises and get on with the show. Thanks very much again, and we hope you enjoy. There you go. All good?
Have you changed your noise because it's episode 10? Is it like a special edition?
I don't think there was any. I'm not ever really thinking about these things as it goes on. I just try. I can't remember what the noise normally should be. How does it? Was it more? Woo?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Oh man. Okay, fine. Well, let me revert to that then. Woo! So, as will come as no surprise whatsoever to people who obviously listen to the intro, we're going to talk about the Vigilus Open Day and all the corresponding things that came out from that, because ultimately it's a really big, significant part of the 40k hobby right now. Seemed to be an amazing event. None of us attended, unless, of course, anyone kept it secret. No, none of us attended, right?
No.
No, we didn't randomly find ourselves there.
I definitely did not attend.
There we go. So none of us went, but the photos that the article starts out with look lovely. There's a lot of fabulous cosplay on display there. So let's talk about in the order with which they appear on the Warhammer community website. So if any of you are interested in reading along at home, the website link will be in the description below on YouTube, but if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify or any of the other available platforms, just go over to Warhammer Community and look up the Vigilus breaking news from Vigilus Open Day article, which at the time of recording is pinned to the top of the website. But anyway, as I say, the very first thing you see as you scroll down is a new Genestealer cult model. That being finally, for our last official miniature reveal of the event, we've got a very interesting Genestealer cult model. This chap will help you plan your assault and features an Easter egg that some particular sharp-eyed rumour engine fans might have already spotted. So basically, it's a Genestealer cult guy looking over the Warhammer World facility. How incredible. Joe, you sort of like Genestealer cult. What do you feel about the man and his display?
I think it's a cool little Easter egg within the game, and it's a good talking point with your opponent kind of thing. I'm sure lots of people will try and paint it in the exact same colours, and like that's the rhino that's outside Warhammer World will most definitely end up being blue. For a lot of people, I'm not sure how he's going to interact within the game. I expect he'll probably give some kind of bonuses for doing the from the shadows ability that allows Genestealer cult to like deep strike in and charge and like redeploy, which is pretty cool. It seems like they're just trying to flush out the codex to be standalone, so you don't really need to ally it in with anyone. That's something that they really struggle with at the moment. Like they really rely heavily on an Imperial Guard detachment or a big Tyrannid force, which they need. So he's cool, and then obviously you've got the really beautiful bikes, which people have been trying to convert up as Rough Riders for years, but using the Space Marine Scout bikes. But now they've officially made one in proper human scale, which is really nice.
Be interesting actually to see how convertible these are in the other direction if you wanted to make them into Astra Militarum bikes. I'm wondering how versatile the kit is towards those models. That'd be quite interesting.
I expect it to be quite versatile, because a lot of people have already made Imperial Guard regiments using the base Genestealer cult model and then given them like a Mechanicum, like a Skitarii Vanguard helmet and a las gun, or the Skitarii Ranger long rifle. That's like the most popular conversion. So it wouldn't take much, I reckon, to convert it across and give them some kind of lance, which you could probably use the Secretary lance that Forge World do, because you just buy the upgrade kit.
It's nice though to see it. I think, obviously we've scrolled down a little bit now for those playing along at home to the broader Genestealer cult content, but nonetheless, yeah, the new sort of quad bike and motorcycle units. I mean, again, it's really cool to see GW revisiting or delivering new bike units, because obviously bikes have pretty much been defined by what's available within the Elder range, and also the Space Marine range, and also the Orcs as well. But to see Genestealer cults now actually having bike options is really, really cool, I feel. What do you reckon, Phil? You like a lot of Guard and Guard equivalents. What do you reckon of all these lovely new humans on motorcycles?
Yeah, I like all of them, especially the sniper, who I think might be a lady Genestealer cultist, which would be quite cool if they've got a couple options in there. The quad bike looks a little bit piddly. It's a bit funny looking, and the fact that he's driving one-handed while holding some TNT by the looks of it, but also somehow able to fire a big heavy gun. Makes it look a little bit odd, but I think overall it'll be a kind of cool addition. And as Joe said, I like the fact that they're clearly fleshing out the codex, so it's getting a much more fuller release. But that seems to be what they always do with factions. They do like a mini codex year one, and then slightly further on down the line, they kind of give you the full range of miniatures.
I do like, actually when you point out the whole TNT scenario, I didn't really even clock that the first time around, but yeah, it does actually look quite odd when you sort of see it like that. But I think obviously there's definitely going to be some variety to how you can pose that, whether it's both hands on the handlebars or maybe some kind of like chain or something that it's wielding over its head, much like the guys on the motorbikes, right? I mean, even then, I mean, if you just look at the arms that are on the guys riding the bikes, you can probably very easily swap out that TNT for one of those, auto pistols that you see in the bottom examples of the bikes and so on. So, no, I'm really keen to see more. And I think the thing is, as well, is it's really nice to flesh out the range of more kind of traditional transport options for just general human profile characters. So I think having more flexibility and more choices for vehicles for your standard infantry is just really cool to see, because obviously you can use them potentially as rough riders, as Joe said, or do all sorts of cool things with them. I think they're really, really nice. I mean, they tick all the boxes. They're good to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people take them and incorporate them into conversions and other things. They look really nice, which is cool.
Also, it's like another look at like a civilian vehicle within the Imperium, because obviously all of their stuff's taken from like mining facilities and the general populace. So these aren't like combat vehicles. They're just been looted and then made into transports for the Genestealer cult to get around in the general populace. So I know a lot of people have already planned, and I'm thinking about planning, is getting hold of a box or two of bikes, and then one or two of the quad bikes, and then some Goliaths, and then just placing them around the board without any people on them, as like just general bits of terrain and scatter stuff, just to kind of theme up the table.
Yeah, that would be really good. Definitely bring it to life a bit more, for sure.
And
what do you reckon, Richard? What's your feelings towards the new Genestealer cult stuff? You dig it?
I think they're really, really cool. My only hope is that they have kind of what you guys hinted at, like reverse rules, so that the Imperial, like the Imperial Guard, could use them. Just, I like the idea of having this like kind of like people's militia element to the Guard army, like some of them, they're kind of smaller vehicles, like the quad, and I love the bikes. The bikes are just so cool, and like Joe said, it's like, yeah, now we can finally make some decent Rough Riders that aren't horses.
I said they'd fit the theme of Richie's Elysians really well. So something like an all-terrain bike or a quad bike, it would fit like something that the Elysians would drop into the battlefield with them to kind of get around fast.
Yeah, well, even just putting them on I could love the idea of having them on bikes, so they wouldn't deep strike, but they could. Bikes can still can Rough Riders outflank? I don't know if they can. But if they can, that would be really cool.
Death Riders can, right, Phil?
Yeah, but you need the company command version of the Death Riders to be able to do that. Like the standalone unit can't, and I don't think the standalone Rough Riders can.
Ah, well, I think it's really cool models, and it's like you said, it's like it opens up this world, like the real world of the 41st millennium. It's not just all, because these are like people. This is like people just. These cults just taking existing stuff from work and then turning it into weapons, which I think is really cool. And I'd love to see if they had like, I'd like to do it just to convert it, just to have as not necessarily a Genestealer cult version, because it's like there must be Chaos Cultist versions of these as well, surely. It's not just the Genestealers who are like, yeah, let's use all these tanks and these bikes and things. Surely all the people of the Uprisings could be using that. And I think it just adds such cool flavor, and I really like the idea. Like I'd heard the same like kind of theory as well about the sniper biker that is actually a female soldier, which I think would be really cool to see more kind of female sculpts in the human races, because they started doing that in Age of Sigmar, but they haven't really started doing it yet. Like as far as I'm aware, Space Marines are still all blokes. Same for the Imperial Guard. There's no kind of variety there, so I think that's that. And if anything that shows that is really exciting for me.
I actually really like the expression of the man on the phone overlooking Warhammer World as well. He looks like he's really, really annoyed that someone's picked up the phone and called him while he's enjoying something. He's just sort of got that look on his face, like, oh god, no, not that guy. Like, you know, he's sort of begrudgingly picking up the phone at that moment in time. That distilled sense of frustration on his face is It's truly fantastic. I applaud the model creator who brought that to life.
Or he's like phoning up Warhammer World, and he's calling up and saying, "Guys, where's my order at?"
Yeah.
Yes, mate.
The resin was wrong again, and it's like a passive threat. He's like, "I know where you guys live. I know where you work."
So, Forge-Old, yet again, my Thunderhammers are all bent out of whack. What's going on?
That's it.
It is such a cool model. I'd almost be tempted to pick him up just to convert for my Krieg, just to use the floating table. Because that's just a cool piece on its own right. What I'd almost be tempted to do you remember the old Citadel campaign tiles that you could get?
Yes.
Where they had little maps on them. One of them, I think it might have been a Forge World one, or a specific upgrade kit you could get from Games Workshop, and it had a hive city, and almost like try and drill Warhammer World out and put a hive city inside it instead. I think that would look even better.
So it's definitely going to see a lot of use in Armies on Parade, that's for sure.
No, yeah, for sure.
Oh, without a doubt, it's a great model. Have they specified what is it going to be a proper release as part of Genestealer Cult, or is it going to be one of their new celebratory come to a thing and get this models?
They've not said, but I think it's going to be. It would make sense that it's just a new HQ choice for. I mean, it's not a Primaris Lieutenant, so it can't be a celebratory model.
True. Although that being said, moving on to the next thing on the list, we move on to the humble Noise Marine, which again I think potentially is a special one-off thing, or is it actually again just going to be coming out proper? What's the deal with the Noise Marine?
Isn't it the same as Sly Marbo?
So is it going to be a resin kit then?
Well, no. This time it's plastic, and I think that might be just because they learnt the lesson that people tend not to like Finecast.
Yeah. It'll be released the weekend before Christmas as like a stocking filler present.
On the topic of the Noise Marine, though, I mean, again, obviously, that was another reveal that came later in the day, so it appears early on in the blog post, but it actually was revealed later on. Richie, you're known for playing a Emperor's Children army. What's your opinion on the humble Noise Marine?
I think it is one of the best and worst things I've ever seen, for very much the same reasons. But I'm also really, I think it's really interesting what they're doing with that as a model, because I love the way that the way they promoted it with their kind of very 80s inspired music video they did for it, and I just love the way the model is literally painted the same way it was painted back in the 90s when it first came out. But equally, it's only called Noise Marine. It wasn't like Noise Marines. It's like, no, this is just one model. So this is not, which makes me think, is this the first batch of like just some one-off models that is going to do like catering to collectors and painters, rather than having here's a new thing which has got loads of special rules and here's a new unit. It's a really interesting kind of what it represents, I guess, because they're not presenting it as you're going to get a squad of Noise Marines. That's not how it's been presented. It's like, here's this one model which intentionally looks like it did back in the day, and it's painted ludicrously. I love the green base. Was just brought back all these fond memories of when I was young and couldn't afford to waste money on Elysian drop troops. But it's such a cool like model of just like bringing memories of simpler, happier times, and it's just such a cool model. But I don't see it fitting in any way necessarily it doesn't appear to be part of whatever the future is going to be for Slanesh or Emperor's Children. It just seems like this weird, crazy one-off model, which I think is really cool. The idea that they could be doing more of these, like just one-off models that you aren't necessarily going to use every day in all your games, but just this is a cool model to have. Similar to what you see in like Blackstone Fortress, and it's like some of the Necromunda models where like we had the squat, that loads of people bought that squat. They don't play Necromunda, they just wanted the squat figure. And same with this. Here's a really cool Noise Marine. People are painting this up ludicrously. I mean, the galleries of this model are going to be insane, and it's really cool. The reason I don't think it's cool is because I'm a huge fan of the Emperor's Children, and I would love them to actually finally get some new models and a new codex, but I don't see this as part of that. And if I do see part of that, I'm like, what the hell is all the rest of it going to look like? That's just going to be weird. But yeah, I think it's cool and really exciting. I'm glad it exists. I don't, but it feels very much more here's a one-off cool figure as opposed to here's something that's going to be the cornerstone of an army, which I think is cool that they're doing that.
No, absolutely. I think for me personally, when I look at this, I think it's a really good statement of intent, if not anything else. The Emperor's Children are at least still part of the conversation. I think if you want to try and read into it in a positive, you look at this and you say, that to me tells me that these models and this range and, you know, this specific range of figures has not been forgotten, and you know, this could have potentially been one of many versions of the revised Noise Marine design that they probably did have a discussion about. What if we went mad and went proper old school, and then they went, oh, we do love it, but no, we've got this other really cool new design for Noise Marines, which will reveal throughout the course of 2019, 2020 potentially. But yeah, I think for me, I look at it as a great statement of intent. I love the fact they've endorsed and used the old colour schemes and the ridiculous over-the-top green base, the leopard skin, armour combined with the zebra skin helmet. It's truly bonkers, but I just really like it. I think again, it's a fantastic love letter to the 40k of old, and I'm in huge support of them doing models like this. What do you reckon, Joe? What do you think of the old Noise Marine?
I think he's good. It's very much an ilk of remember they did that. Is it Slambo, or his name was that random?
Yes, Slambo. Yeah,
warrior. He kind of heralded the release of new Chaos models for Age of Sigmar kind of thing. So I think that's what they're kind of doing. They're like just kind of getting people testing the waters, as it were. Like, how popular is this model going to be? How big will our release of the future Emperor's Children things? And it's quite funny because like everyone thought that Blackstone Fortress was gonna be Emperor's Children and the new Noise Marines, for it then not to be, and then they just release a single model as well. It's almost like a practical joke that Games Workshop have played on the rumor engine, which is quite funny. But I think he's a beautiful model. And it's a good scale up. I don't think we'll ever see like him as a playable thing unless they do what they did with the how was it called? Like the Rogue Trader Marine they had, where they gave him some token rules.
He will 100% have rules in the same way as Sly Marbo, the Sisters of Battle character that they did, and Slambo for Age of Sigmar. This guy will definitely have rules. It wouldn't surprise me if he had rules for use in Blackstone Fortress, for Kill Team, all that kind of stuff. I think they will support this guy with rules, whether he's going to be super awesome on his own. But again, you never know. This guy could be a really powerful character for your Emperor's Children army as and when the whole thing comes into its full existence. I genuinely think they will definitely give it rules. It's just whether it's actually any good or not, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think it looks. Yeah, I'm hopeful.
So the colour scheme is just beautiful. That's enough for me.
Absolutely. And what do you think, Phil, of the humble Noise Marine?
I love that it sort of harks back to the original design and is basically a resculpt saying, look how good we can be now doing old figures. But I also hate the model because I think it's a bit silly looking and it doesn't actually fit in with the lore. I mean, it's a guy with a bolter strapped to a guitar, whereas if you look at some of the Horus Heresy Emperor's Children models, they're not called Noise Marines, it's the Cacophony. Richard, you might be able to...
That is correct, they are called the Cacophony.
Okay, yeah, so they're effectively Noise Marines, and they're much more grounded and realistic, and just look a bit more like something you would see. Like, to me, this won't fit in with any kind of, even a Chaos army. It looks like I mean, if an orc army had a guitar gun, you'd be like, okay, I get it. But for this, to me, it's a bit silly for 40k. But as a standalone miniature on its own, I think it's pretty good.
Do you not think, though, that there couldn't just be one eccentric Chaos Space Marine who's, enjoying all the excess and madness of Slaanesh and, he's just gone off the rails and endorsed this whole over-the-top crazy look to express himself freely and all the rest of it? Is that not what this guy is? He's just completely gone against the curve and he's just gone, nah, nuts to all this grimdark nonsense. I'm going to get me some really colourful clothes on or do a really colourful paint job and go wild. I appreciate obviously it doesn't fit in, but I actually think I don't see that as I don't see that as an issue per se, but I do obviously understand why it will have an effect, I suppose. But yeah, he's. I just think it's interesting. I think it's cool that they're doing it, as you said, Phil, and or as everyone said, and yeah. But I do agree with you. Obviously, I think But then it's going to be interesting to see what this thing looks like when it's painted in a traditional colour scheme, not in this crazy look here. Admittedly, the Mohawk's always going to be difficult to kind of dumb down, but the I don't know. Maybe with a head swap and a more real, a more consistent colour scheme, it'll fit in really nicely. Who knows?
Well, what's interesting is this is a resculpt of a really old model where they've kind of kept the pose almost exactly the same. And then the Genestealer cult model above that we were just talking about is a resculpt of a really old model in a very similar pose. It was like a really old, probably like a Rogue Trader era model or maybe second edition. And then the next model that we're going to talk about is a resculpt of a very old model in the exact same pose as well. So 3 models are kind of modern reimaginings of old models.
We've reached saturation on Games Workshop's posing.
Or of just ideas. Maybe they've run out and gone, we'll just redo old stuff.
Well, that's clearly the case because you're obviously talking about the next man along, which is the Primaris upgrade of Marneus Calgar. So this obviously...
before we go on to him, for everyone who's listening at home, if you haven't, everyone should definitely check out the video for the Noise Marine because it's full of like Spinal Tap kind of styled humour and everything. It's brilliant.
They do have almost that kind of Stonehenge moment where it sort of descends and it's the little model. But yeah, no, Marneus Calgar. Now, without wanting to get too in-depth into all the different various ramifications and or representations that is the release of this model, I personally think and obviously felt that it was an inevitability that we would go this way. Obviously, the guys from the Games Workshop development and studio teams pretty much said from the outset of 40k 8th edition with the release of Primaris Marines that some Marines will receive Primaris upgrades. This was not something that necessarily took me by surprise, though I have to admit I, like a lot of other people, got really invested in the idea of them doing something really interesting with this and making Marneus Calgar a dreadnought, because I would have felt like had they actually done that, that would have been so out of left field that you would have just been like, oh my god, I completely didn't see that coming. He could have been a Redemptor dreadnought by all accounts, but to have Marneus Calgar as a dreadnought, I thought would have been a really interesting thing to do. Not that this isn't an interesting thing to do. I think Marneus Calgar as a Primaris Marine is super interesting. There are a couple little things that are confusing from a narrative perspective that I'm hopeful that they'll clean up. So for those of you who don't particularly follow the current evolving lore of 40k, when last we saw Marneus Calgar, he was chilling out on Macragge, looking after the Ultramar 500 worlds that Guilliman had decided he wanted back. So Macragge essentially was being governed and protected by Marneus Calgar, and he was essentially left there to continue to protect Macragge and the Ultramar section of space. Being as they were under attack from Mortarion and a whole heap of Plague Bearers and Nurgle Demons and Death Guard Space Marines. So, at the last time we saw Marneus Calgar, he was a regular Adeptus Astartes normal Space Marine, still fighting for the defence of Macragge. Now, obviously, what's happened at some point here is he's had the time to go into the incubator chamber and become a Primaris Marine. Obviously, no idea how long it takes in the story for a Primaris upgrade to take hold, but I've got to assume it's more than a week. But who knows? Anyone want to hazard a guess how long a Primaris upgrade might take?
So it's between 1 and 10,000. I know that for a fact.
Fine. Well, he has emerged, so it's reasonable to assume it's not within 10,000, right? It's got to be. It's probably closer between 1 and 10, maybe.
Well, 10,000 was the time it took to develop the technology of the Primaris, not for them to make them. As far as I'm aware, to become a Primaris, it just takes 3 extra organs being added to you. So it could be as long as surgery takes, which, it could be a one-day thing, could be out the next day.
You got to have a recovery process, though, right? You got to get better. You can't just plonk a new heart in someone and go, there, I'll get on with it. It'll take you a little while.
My theory is that it's not Marneus Calgar.
Oh,
it's not the same.
Hello. Here it comes. Let us have it.
Well, the reason we all thought he was going to become a Dreadnought is because all the videos and the promotional material was all like, only like death is not the end, you still serve in death. What if the storyline is that Marneus Calgar died at some point, and the reason he's now a Primaris is because it's a clone of him who's a Primaris?
Zombie Calgar?
Crikey.
I was going to say, I've heard a theory, and I don't know if it's because I think it might have been someone spoke to the designers at the Vigilus Day, but it sounded like he dies on the operating table to become Primaris and then gets brought back to life. Potentially with some elder help again, I'm not sure. So I don't know, take it with a pinch of salt. I wasn't too sure how true that story was. But that would explain the whole, the fact that he's died technically.
Zombie Calgar. You would have thought as well, though, right? So of all the things that being upgraded to Primaris gave you, obviously it's made him grow, which is interesting, I suppose, in and of itself, because I kind of felt like the whole them being bigger was sort of to do with the whole incubation process, as opposed to the fact that, and obviously the ongoing kind of creation with the organs being implanted into him. I mean, fair enough. Maybe even then, when they put the new 3 organs inside the Marneus Calgar in this example, he does then also grow taller as well, because whatever, let's not think too hard about it. But it was surprising that they took the decision for him to get bigger. But interestingly, he got taller, but it wasn't able to grow him back a new eye, because he's still rocking the bionic eye, which I suppose is only sensible. And he didn't get new hair colour or anything. He's still sporting the grey old man hair. It's not like, turned him into a younger version of himself or rejuvenated him per se. He's still a crusty old geezer with one eye. Yeah, it's interesting what they have and have not elected for the Primaris upgrade to do. Because what's also really interesting about this, and somewhat of a sort of tangent now, I suppose, is that Dante is heavily rumoured to be taking a Primaris upgrade, and it's heavily rumoured that he's going to do this because essentially he's being visited by the Sanguinor and Sanguinius or whatever is like, I have plans for you, you need to carry on living, don't be dead, keep going, do the Primaris upgrade and you'll be fine. But as you can see here, it doesn't seem to actually make you younger. It just seems to keep you in a perpetual state of what you were, just bigger and Primarisy.
I'd like to see the almost like a Marvel Civil War kind of thing between Marneus Calgar and Dante. And then Dante is like proper against it, and then they have like a big fight. And
I don't think
they're still best buddies.
Of all of the heroes within the Space Marines, Dante is the least likely to have a problem with Primaris Marines, because he's a very loyal and very sort of Index Astartes kind of guy. Obviously, the thing is with Blood Angels is Blood Angels have a death company because of their whole problem with having bad dreams and imagining themselves to be sanguineous. But the thing is beyond that, their army pretty much, at least historically, follows the Index Astartes to the letter, although it does now have Sanguinary Guard and Librarian Dreadnoughts. But historically speaking, they were very much in line with the whole what the Emperor wants we do kind of vibe. I think what's interesting is that what we're seeing within the lore is that there is this kind of potential civil war emerging within regular Marines and Primaris Marines. So there's a Dark Angels book, I think, called Secret War, that talks about how the Dark Angels have obviously allowed Primaris into their ranks because they didn't want to be investigated, but they're systematically mind-wiping the Primaris Marines, and they're always kind of being really unfair to like the Primaris lieutenants and captains, talking down to them and not including them in things. So I can foresee, if I was to do a roll call of like the Space Marine chapter masters who I think won't become Primaris Marines, I think Logan Grimnar is definitely in there, because there's a whole thing about Logan Grimnar potentially becoming a Chaos variant of himself anyway, but I just don't think Logan Grimnar would do it. I think Ragnar Blackmane might, but I don't think Logan Grimnar would. I think Azrael won't become a Primaris Marine. I think he's likely to be like, no, I will take this so far, but I'm not interested in this upgrade. So I think there's a chance that if they're doing something interesting, Azrael wouldn't do it. And then the only other Space Marine I think who won't want the Primaris upgrade from the kind of chapter master roster, well, two more actually. One is Gabriel Seth, and the other one is Lysander. I think those four are the most likely not to have it, because there's a whole weird kind of like narrative building around those guys. So there is famously already an Imperial Fist novel or short story about one of the Space Marines from the Imperial Fists complaining about the Primaris Marines because they've never been scouts, they've never been devastators, they've never been anything, and he looks at them with disgust because he's like, these monstrosities are a disgrace to the perfection that the Emperor created. And obviously Azrael has the whole thing with he doesn't want people to find out that half his legion turned to chaos, and Gabriel Seth has essentially said to Dante at the end of Devastation of Baal, I'm pretty much the last Flesh Terror alive, as are the other, Astartes Flesh Terrors that are here with me now. These Primaris Marines are basically Ultramarines in Flesh Terror colours. But that's that whole thing where I think it could be really interesting if they do it in an interesting way, and not just go, everyone's a Primaris Marine now, get on with it. I think it'd be really cool if actually a few of the established characters took a stance or decided not to do it, is my feeling.
Yeah. Do we know on the location of Sicarius? Because someone told me that he's dead, but I don't know. I'd like, maybe the listeners can tell us where he is, because if he is dead or dying, he'd be a good character to chuck into a dreadnought. And because it's Sicarius and he's a little bit mental, he's super blingy, like the Forge-Rolled one.
Which one's Sicarius again?
He's the captain of the second company of Ultramarines.
Oh, yes.
Who's got the plasma pistol and power sword.
I mean, possible. I mean, one thing's that also really interesting about Marneus Calgar's Primaris upgrade is the fact that his new Honor Guard are now Primaris Marines as well. So that's super interesting. So do you think his Primaris Marine bodyguards or Honor Guard, do you think they are also Astartes who upgraded to Primaris, or do you think they are actually just Primaris Marines? What's your thoughts on those?
I reckon that they're new Bogo Primaris Marines, and his old Honor Guard are being bumped off, and they're probably off sulking somewhere, but they're no longer important, which is a shame, because the models for them were absolutely stunning.
Those old Honor Guard for Marneus Calgar, the four with the two with the power axis bolt gun, the one with the two swords, and the one with the flag or the ancient rather, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they're tremendous models. In fact, the old Marneus Calgar model in Terminator armor, in my opinion, is a better model than this Primaris one. Again, I don't really necessarily want to be too unfair to it, because I think it's probably a perfectly fine model. I just don't necessarily feel it has the same kind of gravitas or weight or importance that Marneus Calgar in Terminator armor had. Phil, you're
I think the problem with that is, or the problem with this model is they try to harken back to that previous version of Marneus Calgar, where before he was in Terminator armor. So that's why he's got that kind of slightly hokey pose with his arm up in the air. And I think that's what sort of is the flaw of this model, because if the pose was slightly better, it would actually probably look like a much better model. The Terminator sculpt has a much more sort of dynamic, I'm coming for you sort of pose. I think that works so much better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, that kind of come at me, bro, kind of pose of the Terminator one is damn cool. Whereas, the kind of way one hand up in the air thing is slightly less exciting. But if I get back to it briefly in terms of some of the fluff side of things, so Marneus Calgar was left on Macragge, and now miraculously he's on Nihlus, or is Nihlus in there?
Vigilus.
I think it's Imperium Nihlus Vigilus, isn't it? Is it within that sector of the Imperial?
Well, Imperium Nihlus is the dark web of the galaxy, to do a metaphor. So that's the dark side, but the Vigilus is the world that links the two.
Yeah. So
it's effectively like the new Cadia. It's the stronghold between, two sides to something.
Yeah.
And is where everything's now going down, basically.
Yeah. But this is the thing, so Vigilus, based on what I understand, and I have to admit I don't know that much about this per se, but I'm pretty confident when I say that Vigilus is quite a way away from Macragge, and also Vigilus was under the control or the jurisdiction of Dante, so I'm a little bit confused why Space Wolves Ultramarines are rocking up on Vigilus and defending it against Genestealer cults and Elder when it's supposed to be the job of the Blood Angels to kind of oversee this area of space. So it's one of those things that, again, I get it. I think if you're going to pick any one Space Marine character to first turn into a Primaris, it has to really be Marneus Calgar, because he's the Ultramarine Chapter Master. He makes sense because he's obviously going to sort of beckon in the new age of Primaris Chapter Masters and so on. So that does make sense narratively, and it does make sense, from a range perspective, from a sales, marketing, model selling business perspective. But what I think is interesting is the fact that they've just sort of brushed over the fact that, he was quite a way away with a very clear objective in mind. He was told to watch and oversee Macragge. So at some point he's just gone, nah, I'm just going to go over there and fight some orcs or whatever's going on Vigilus, or some Genestealers, which is very bizarre in terms of how that's going to have twisted around narratively. So I'm really interested to see how Games Workshop define or actually rectify the fact that he's now flown all the way across the galaxy to Vigilus in very perilous conditions after having only just gone through an incredibly dangerous surgical procedure. The whole Marneus Calgar being their thing confuses me, and I hope Games Workshop come up with something interesting or more kind of fleshed out than just, I just fancied a trip across the galaxy in incredibly hostile conditions because he wants to impress his daddy, even though his daddy had given him very specific orders to stay on Macragge. But anyway, there you go. That's a bit of a fluff thing that confuses me. But beyond that, it's interesting. What do you reckon, Rich? I haven't heard from you about Marneus Calgar. What's your opinion on the bugger?
I think, looking at all the lore, the way it's been presented, specifically the reveal video where multiple people say, I am Marneus Calgar, I think he's actually Omegon. And this is all an elaborate ruse in the beginning of the new heresy.
Wow, you are really hitting a home run on the conspiracy theories today. I love it. It's amazing.
Or it could just be an elaborate new way of getting a new line of miniatures on sale by upgrading all the characters. No. Again, the thing that bugs me about it is I get, and Phil mentioned it's a redesign of a classic sculpt. But I prefer the other one where he's just like striding forward with his two fists. Whereas this one, I'd never really liked the old pose, so I don't really like this one. But I'm incredibly interested in whatever's going down at Vigilus. And I hope it's not just I hope it's not going to be disappointing, but I'm hoping it's something interesting. Like, for me, the writing's on the wall that it should be. This is going to be the return of Fulgrim, is what I'm thinking, because they're sowing the seeds with the Noise Marine, new Slaanesh figures in the pipeline as well. So I'm very excited for whatever's going to go down there, and everything to do with Vigilus.
There you go. So yeah, I think it's pretty exciting, but again, I can see why people are kind of underwhelmed by it. There was also a fantastic meme or thing doing the rounds that this is just yet another Space Marine Primaris Lieutenant, or Lieutenant, sorry, to use the correct pronunciation. But yeah, wasn't that you, Phil, who shared that with the group?
Yeah, it was the dictionary definition of lieutenant, meaning the second in command, which obviously he now is to
Roberto Gilliman.
Roberto Gilliman. I keep thinking Calgar because we were talking about Roberto Gilliman earlier. Yeah, because he's the second in command to Roberto Gilliman. That makes him a lieutenant, and he is now obviously a Primaris model, so he is now another Primaris lieutenant model. So yeah, there's been an awful lot of memes about this new model because I think a lot of people just don't like it.
The other thing I think as well is they've really got to hit a home run with this thing from a rules perspective to have anyone even use it, because currently Marneus Calgar doesn't really see any play whatsoever, and that's with arguably some really good Honor Guard models, because the Honor Guard are probably amongst one of the better units, if not incredibly limited in scope, but they're arguably a very good unit within the Space Marine Codex, but Marneus Calgar himself sort of isn't, so... it's really interesting. Like, I think you're really going to have to come up with some very compelling reasons to want to take this guy over and above a standard Primaris captain, and then also over and above a Roberto Gilliman, who is obviously going to still be the kind of gold standard when it comes to Ultramarine HQ choices, even though he is obviously a Lord of War. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, again, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a fine model for a perfectly fine purpose. I think on it, I'm completely down the middle on it. It affects me in no way, shape, or form. I will almost certainly never buy it, unless, of course, it has some utterly absurd set of rules behind it, which I just can't see him doing. Because what really could? I mean, what would Marneus Calgar have to give your army for you to want to take him in an army? I mean, Joe, you play Marines now and again. If Marneus Calgar had a thing, what would you want him to have to take him?
He'd have to be cheap.
Yep.
Because most Space Marine characters, like special named characters, are always ridiculously overpointed.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have to be a cheap reroll bubble. I assume that he'll be reroll all to hit into wounds.
So you want him to be a cheap Gilliman, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what he needs to be. He needs to be a cheap Gilliman.
He's not going to be, though, is he? He's going to be reroll hits. He's not going to have any reroll wound bonuses. They're going to have changed his gauntlets into new bolter variants, so they're going to have -1, but they're going to be strength 4. He's going to have toughness 5 because he's now in some kind of Gravis plate armor, and then he's going to have, I don't know, some sort of thing against Tyranids or Genestealer cult that makes him relevant to the campaign. But yeah, I just can't see him being any good unless, of course, like you said, Joe, he's super cheap, which he's not going to be.
No,
because he's Marneus Calgar. Marneus Calgar can't be cheap.
He might be basically. He'll be like the equivalent of a dreadnought. I reckon his fist will give him something like 5 attacks, with like flat damage free with no minus to hit, so he'll be hitting on 2s at strength 10, kind of thing. I reckon that's what we'll see from him.
You think it'll be strength 10 rather than strength 8?
Yeah, I reckon it'll be strength 10 because if you look the other, in my opinion, like the main heavy hitter of named characters from the Space Marine Codex is Lysander, and he's strength 10, flat 3 damage, hits on 2s. He's got 8 wounds, 2 up save, 3 up invuln, and a reroll everything bubble.
Yeah.
And he comes in at like a fairly decent 180, I think. Yeah. 170. So,
I mean, if I was to guess his profile, I would say he's movement 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+. He's strength and toughness, rather strength 4, toughness 5. I'd say he's got 6 wounds would be my best estimate for him. I think 6 wounds sounds about right.
Lysander's got 7 or 8, I think.
Oh, really? Well, maybe he'll go a little higher than maybe 7. Leadership will probably be 10, if not 9, because very few things actually achieve leadership 10, but maybe Marneus Calgar will. And attack-wise, I reckon they'll give him 5 attacks, is where I'll level him out at.
He'll still have extra CP, though, I reckon.
Yeah, he'll definitely give an extra CP. I'm pretty confident that'll come into effect, and then there'll be some reroll bubble for hits, and it's probably going to be about the full extent of it. I think, again, he could arguably be good in a fight, but not good enough that it's ever going to matter, because, if they said, Gauntlets of Ultramar, flat 4 damage, because we're Primaris and we're Gauntlets, but even then, I'm just like, who cares? It's just, I can't see him being good, arguably. But you never know, right? I mean, you can always be surprised. I've heard on the rumour mill that in Chapter Approve, all Space Marine named characters are getting a massive points reduction to make them really viable options. So maybe Marneus Calgar will be the first of many new viable options in Space Marine characters. Right, moving on across the board, we have another model, and that model is a Black Legion model. I cannot find his name. Anyone want to chime in with his name?
It is Haarken Worldclaimer, the Herald of Abaddon.
When did Abaddon need a herald, and when did he end up with one that looks this lame?
He's a busy boy, isn't he? He's got stuff to do. So
Abaddon's really short compared to everyone else, so he doesn't want to show up himself.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, this herald is humongous compared to current Abaddon. This is terrifying, but yeah.
I've developed a new theory on this character on the spot. He is the Starscream of 40k.
Wow. And he's the Michael Bay Starscream at that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just the annoying, whingy character that goes around hyping the big man. And then, because he flies as well, which is the irony of it. But he's just going to be and he'll run away.
To use a wrestling example for recent WWE programming, he's a Leo Rush. That won't mean anything to anyone, I admit, but there you go. Leo Rush, it's a thing. I mean, well, rather than give my opinions in the first instance, Joe, what's your general vibe on this model?
My opinion is that it is bad. It's not a great model, but it has redeemable features as a conversion model. So if you get rid of the shonky spikes on his backpack, gave him a normal Rapture one, changed his helmet to a Rapture one, or one of the skull-faced ones from the Reavers. Give him one of those, that would give him a good look. And repose that spear arm. Because that spearhead's massive as well, isn't it? If you gave him a more reasonable size, less cartoony spear, then you'll be on the right path to making him half decent.
What do you reckon, Phil? What's your opinion on this guy?
I think Joe's pretty on the money. I think if you took off the spikes on the jetpack, because there's just too much going on. If you took that off, it would instantly be better. I'm not a huge fan of the half helmet, which is an odd trend they seem to be doing since Primaris Marines. And I thought they were only doing it because Primaris Marine helmets had the ability to come off in three ways. But it's interesting that the Chaos Marines are now doing it as well. So I guess the assumption is all helmets have always been able to do that, but we've just never seen them do that until recently. I have seen this model in a different angle, and it does look better on a side-on pose. It is one of those cases where sometimes they're just not photographed at the best angle, but they do look it would probably look better in person. But I think there's just too much going on in comparison to the Blackstone Fortress Space Marines or Chaos Marines.
No, absolutely. I mean, you compare this to the Chaos Lord they produced and delivered in Blackstone Fortress. I mean, this is just worlds apart. This is a very lacking model when compared to the stature, the just the overall sort of sense of authority and importance of that Chaos Lord over and above this guy. I think Joe's description of him being Starscream is spectacularly accurate. Sorry, Joe, as well. I think you were going to say something before we moved into Phil's opinions on that. Did you have a point that you wanted to add in on this?
I did, but I think his rules are probably going to be super good because Chaos need a proper baller of a character. The guy that came in Blackstone Fortress was a bit underwhelming, and Chaos don't have a fast-moving, like deadly character, kind of like their own version of the Smash Captain. I reckon this is what he's gonna fill that role.
You have heard of Demon Princes with wings, right?
Yeah, but they can't deep strike in and then charge like crazy distance.
They can do if you weren't taking them as Chaos Space Marines, but yeah, admittedly, you are right in the Chaos Space Marine example. Although, can you not? No, you can't. They don't do the Alpha Legion thing, do they?
I reckon this guy's going to be something like a Night Lord's, like an ex-Night Lord character that Abaddon's roped in, and he's gonna come down. He's gonna smash some heads.
There you go.
And that spear's going to be either D3 damage or flat 2. It's my guess.
What do you think, Rich? What do you reckon of this miniature?
So I think the spikes are stupid, but the reason I think they're stupid is if you're on the page that we were slowly scrolling through at home, there's the video above about the Vigilus campaign, and if you go to 1 minute and 9 seconds, there's actually a good look side on of what the model looks like, which makes the model look really cool. However, it also highlights how stupid the spikes are, because if he was standing up, like those spikes are going backwards. Like they're just literally just going right behind him. It's like, how would he ever stand? He would just fall. He just fall backwards every time he tried to stand up. It's ridiculous. But other than the spikes being just weird, and they've clearly been put on afterwards to give it some kind of height, or because he's Chaos, so he has to have spikes, and they have to go vertical on how the miniature is finished as opposed to how it looks. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool model. I think the pose they've used in the official image, I see why they've done it, because they want to show his face and they want to show the lettering, like the kind of the etching on the kind of spear he's throwing, but it just looks bad. As a result, whereas you look from other angles, it looks really cool, because he's basically like, it looks like he's like charging towards you. He's outstretching of his lightning claw. He's about to throw the spear at someone. I think his rules are going to be awesome when Chaos is in desperate need of either a new Lucius model or a new character, and he could be cool. But I think he's a really cool model. Apart from the spikes have to go. But otherwise, I think he's really cool. I think it's a really bad picture they put up as the default one. I love that he's stepping over a dead Ultramarine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really cool model. I think it's just the angle that it's in the official photo that makes it look bad. And I think that that spear is going to be a ranged weapon as well, so it might have like, I don't know, it's like he like hits you with that. That's like got like a 12-inch range or something maybe. They can do damage. I'm really excited for this character, which is odd because usually I couldn't care less about the Black Legion, because I feel they get all the love for no good reason, because they keep bringing out new models that are Black Legion themed and they still haven't redone Abaddon. So maybe he's going to come back as a Dreadnought or as a Demon Prince at some point.
Well, what's interesting is it says on this page that he declares that the world is going to fall to Abaddon in 80 days. Now, you could just say, oh, that's just, some storytelling. Or you could see it the other way, in that just over or just under 3 months, we're going to have a new Abaddon sculpt being released into the world.
Or Phileas Fogg turns up.
That's it, man. Never make estimates, man. Like, there's no way. I mean, he's going to be like your average builder Right, yeah, I reckon I'll get that done in a week, mate. 4 weeks later, he's still there. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But
80 days is an odd number. It's like, well, it's an even number, but it's an odd number for them to choose as just like specify. Oh yeah, 80 days is how long it will take. It's like, well, what happens in 80 days? Does the War Master turn up? Because it's not quite clear. Does the War Master turn up in 80 days, or does like as soon as he turns up, there's in 80 days it ends, and the War Master turns up after 50.
I do like the idea of him standing there, sort of doing the maths on it, though, going, all right, hang on here, let's have a look at this. Well, all right, it's this big, it's got this much going on. Yeah, I reckon. Oh, hang on, do the timetable. Oh, 70 days is probably no.
There's two like up back with the little abacus. It's like 2 1. Carry the 1 5. Oh yep. Yeah, I love that video.
Done. I mean that's probably what the spikes were for before. He's got all the abacus bits on there. That's what the skulls are for, just like organising it into time and so on. My feeling on the model, just to close out on this guy, I think one of the fantastic positives of the new methods of sculpting that Games Workshop use is that we create incredible levels of detail, and we are able to have models that have levels of dynamic posing and detail like we've never seen before. But I also think we are let down often by the fact that the designers at Games Workshop truly can express themselves completely unlimited by the constraints of practical sculpting methods and things of that nature. I look at this model much like how I looked at the Night Haunts for Age of Sigmar, and I go, right, this gigantic monster is stood on the equivalent of a bog roll tube in terms of what he's posed on. I mean, he literally looks like he's standing on a lead pipe, which is obviously a terrifying situation from a transport and actual functional gaming piece perspective, because it's going to snap off left, right and centre. Those spikes on his back are going to snap off all over the place. Getting that guy in a case and keeping him in one piece is going to be a massive challenge. That tail of skulls he's got coming back from him, there's no way that's staying in one piece. The spear is going to snap off all over the place. This is the stuff that concerns me with these kind of models is, yes, you're in the right situation, in the right pose, it's going to look beautiful, but as a practical gaming piece, it's just gone way off in a completely mad, ornate direction that, I think, again, less is sometimes more. And I think with the Black Legion, what I always sort of like about the Black Legion is the idea of this sort of cold, dark, functional Chaos Space Marine army that are all kind of ex-legionnaires and very much like, properly into chaos, which obviously means they're going to have trophies and incorporate some of those elements. But I feel like this guy's just got one too many trophies, a little bit too much bling, a little bit too much everything. I think there's no single part of this model that's not covered in detail, and sometimes I just don't think it's needed. It's the Star Wars prequel of Chaos Space Marine models, in as much as when George Lucas set out to do the prequels, he was all about dense action, and there was always crazy stuff going on every scene, or at least that's how it appears from various, documentaries and so on. And I think that's the same with this guy. There is not a one aspect of this model that isn't just covered in unnecessary detail. And as much as that can look really cool when done really well, my worry is for this is that they've just taken it too far, and I'm just basically imagining, hundreds of people opening up their cases to discover this guy just in 100 different pieces. He just doesn't look. I can't imagine him staying together. Do you think I'm being unnecessarily harsh on that, or what do you reckon? It just doesn't. He looks very fragile to me. Is my main concern.
You've just got to stop chucking your case around.
Fair enough. That's the thing. But I like my gaming pieces to be functional as much as beautiful. I suppose it's sort of like, I just think whoever was designing this just went mad on whatever the 3D tool is they use, Maya or whatever it is. They obviously just went bonkers because it's just gone. It's gone crazy. I also don't like the fact that I see his little bald head. It sort of doesn't work for me. It's a little bald head. I'd definitely head swap with something else for sure, as Joe correctly said. So there you go. The guy and his world-ending charms. Right, now we move on to some books. So we obviously have the Imperium Nihlus Vigilus Defiant campaign book. From the seminar, we were told or understand that this is book 1 and that book 2 is already written, and that we will expect to see more books in this series as the story develops. Phil, you're our resident lover of campaigns and narrative, I suppose. What do you reckon of the overarching campaign and what we're going to see, and what's your hopes and dreams for Vigilus Defiant book 1?
I'm pretty excited for it. What I liked so far is they've been building up with box sets, but every time they've done that, I'm like, oh yeah, but where's the rest of the story? It's really just an excuse to sell you models. So at least here we finally got like a definitive book with some narrative in. And what's interesting is they've sort of sold it as saying it's going to have like the level of detail and depth of the Horus Heresy campaign books, which is quite a sort of a bold statement to live up to. So I really do hope that they're really good. I mean, I've got the Shield of Baal campaign books, and I thought they were fantastic. So if it's anything like that, it should be really good. And I guess this is the only way that you can get the rules for Marneus Calgar, because I think him and a bunch of other rules are going to appear in this book. So I guess the Haarken Worldclaimer is going to be in there as well.
Theoretically, the rules should be included in the packaging for every single release.
Yes, yeah, in the box as well. But I mean, in terms of normally you get a data sheet in a book as well as just in a box. It'd be odd because obviously the Black Legion is clearly going to get a codex shortly down the line. You know, you can only assume. So it'd be odd if there's loads of duplicate data sheets. Like, are they going to do it in here and again in the codex, or how are they going to split them out? That's my only sort of interesting, puzzling question. And it seems like what I want is there to be rules for every single faction in this book. So it's not just Chaos and Space Marine players that are going to benefit the most from it. I want the campaign to be either easily adaptable for any army or to have rules specific to every army.
No, absolutely. The other thing that's sort of heavily rumoured as being part of this campaign is the return of the formation. So there's all the talk about the Imperial Fists actually having a formation in exchange for CPs. Do you know anything about that, Phil? Any opinions on that side of things?
Yeah, just from a friend of mine who went to the event, a guy called Krieger40k on Instagram. He's a fantastic painter. Definitely check him out. So he went and talked to some of the designers, and they've said that there are formations in it, but it's a detachment. So you have to take specific units, and only those specific units gain the benefit. So, for example, there's one apparently to do with Imperial Fists, and only 1 or 2 units will gain the benefit regardless of what else is in that detachment. And you do have to pay a CP cost for it up front as well. And apparently it's all been play tested and will be for match play, or available in match play as well as your open play and narrative play. It's very similar to, so in Shield of Baal, they did it. They had this was obviously back in the day of formations because it was 7th edition, but Shield of Baal had a specific, I think it was called Leviathan. It was a Leviathan detachment which allowed you to take more HQ choices, and you got specific benefits to specific units. In the Fall of Orpheus book, I believe, which was 6th edition, they did something similar as well for Krieg. So there was 2 specific detachments that, for example, like Death Riders, they would have a unique special rule if you took them in that detachment. And I actually really liked that route because I thought that was very thematic. But then they ended up going down the route of formations instead, which just sort of ends up being a bit crazy. So when people are talking about, oh, this is formations coming back, it's not really. It's more just specific detachment types, which are unique to a particular army, which I think is only a good thing.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I don't mind the return of formations from the simple perspective that I think it's good to offer more variety, and I think it's good if done in the right way, and it carries some kind of associated cost. So if you're going to actually kind of do like -3 CP, to take a specific formation, that at least means that there's been some reason for you to do it. And also, you know, a lot of the stuff with formations that made them particularly terrifying in 7th edition was the way that the independent character rules worked and the way that various other things synergized with them to gain benefits of formations without being part of that formation. I think that the way they've cleaned up characters will potentially mean that we won't see the same levels of issues, although obviously this is Games Workshop and this is Warhammer 40,000, so there will be issues. I mean, it's just an inevitability. Doesn't matter how balanced they try to make it, there will be one formation that goes too far, and it will probably take slightly too long to be adjusted, and it will be the thing that everyone's using for a while. But, you know, this is the nature of the creeping meta of the game, and you know what we deal with when we play 40k. We always know something's going to be out there that's going to be stupidly overpowered. It's just, you know, it's the way the game keeps going forward, so, you know, it is what it is. But, Joe, what do you reckon for Vigilus and on the ongoing campaign and formations and so on? Are you excited for this one?
I think it's good. Because over the last year, or since 8th edition's come out, like, it's just been constant rule update, competitive. They've kind of glossed over the narrative. I think it's, for the community, it's lost its fun aspect. It's just an arms race for everyone to run the best army. And now all the codexes are out. They can kind of relax a bit, and people can go back to that just fun, thematic gaming that we all enjoy. And giving us these narrative books gives us like new heroes and new interests and new planets to fight over. And as long as the detachments, like the slash formations, don't get out of hand, it'll be fine.
Do you think that we're actually going to see new codexes in the future? Obviously, we know that we're going to get the Adeptus Sororitas and various other things, but do you think there's going to be a relative drought on codexes as they push the incremental content into these releases over the next 6 months, I suppose?
I reckon we're going to see a period of themed campaign books and update releases of old models. We might see sub-faction codexes come along the way. So, like, wish listing, you're going to have, like, Black Legion, and then you'll have, like, an Emperor's Children army, and then you might see, like, we're all kind of waiting on this, like, Talons of the Emperor book, which will have things like Sisters of Silence and Assassins, Rogue Traders, Inquisitors. There's still gaps in the game that need to be filled. So I think that's what we're gonna be looking at for mainly this year, and then we might start seeing near the end of the coming year. That's when you might start getting the new codex rotation coming in, or even universal rules to affect all codexes. So because at the moment we've got the 3 universal stratagems, I'd like to see a flushing out of stratagems that everyone can use and a reduction of codex ones that could be shared for soup lists.
Well, I think, again, when we inevitably discuss chapter approval when it comes in, I'm sure we can kind of issue or discuss our frustrations with that as it goes forwards. But yeah, no, I think Vigilus looks interesting for sure from my perspective. I'm interested to see new units and new rules come into effect and see what that brings to the game overall. I like them expanding the narrative. As I said already, the fact that Calgar is there confuses me, and I really hope that they don't feel the compulsion to chuck Tau and Necrons into the mix, because they're seemingly the only people absent from it so far, because ultimately it's just going to get too busy, but I'm sure they'll rock up eventually as the months roll on. Richie, any closing thoughts on Vigilus, the campaign to come? You excited, interested, intrigued?
I'm very intrigued because, like you said, all the codexes are out now. So my question is, like, how is Games Workshop going to get in the habit of selling more models and releasing new rules? So it would be cool seeing them go the kind of old Forge World way, or they dabbled a little bit a few years ago, and they'll have these big campaigns which will give entire new like factions. I remember that's when the Thousand Suns got like a whole bunch of new figures in 7th edition, and rules was as part of what the campaign with the Space Wolves. I forgot which one it was called, but one of you chaps helpfully picked up for me the special edition of that codex, which quickly became obsolete. So thank you for that, Games Workshop.
Yes.
But no, I'm really excited for the idea of it. I mean, I agree with you that please don't bring the Necrons and the Tau into it now, because it's already feeling a little bit too much like Dawn of War. It's like, hey, everybody's on the planet, we're all having a bust up, but why is everybody there? Well, like, what's the deal? Or is it like going to be a long thing over the next like 6 months? Or like Vigilus is where all the stuff's going down. And you know the demons will turn up, and then the new Tyranids will turn up, or something. That could be cool as like a place where there's like a reason for there being fights and story, and a way to bring out more characters and more new characters. Because they're doing that all the time. It's like, oh, there's a new box and there's some data sheets that you can use, but the biggest challenge of that stuff is you can't use any of them because at least not in competitive play, because of the faction keywords. So it's like, hey, here's a Blackstone Fortress. There's all these cool models, but you can only really use the Ratlings. If you're doing anything other than competitive play, it's like you're really limited in all these new models that come out. And I'd like to see if they can do something to address that, to either make it so that competitive play isn't the only way people want to play, or they bring out more models or more ways that you can actually use these interesting models in a competitive play, or just have reasons to not just only want to do competitive play, which is where Vigilus intrigues me, as does the urban conquest element. And I don't know if I'm getting ahead, but that kind of element as well, more different ways of playing games of Warhammer 40,000 that aren't just the competitive scene, because there's all these cool models that I'd love to use. Like, I'd love to use Inquisitors, or I'd love to use this more Assassins, or it's the odd model here and there. Or I'd really would love to use the Rogue Trader stuff from the Necromunda expansion, but you can't, because it just doesn't make sense, because in a competitive list most of the time we're playing competitive. So anything what I'm most excited about is giving a really compelling way of playing Warhammer 40,000, but not just in a competitive scene.
No, that's fair enough. The only other thing that's really weird for me from a fluff perspective, and it just occurred to me as I was looking to the cover, has anyone actually explained why there's Cadians still running around everywhere? Surely those have gone away now, haven't they? Like, I mean, at this point, Cadia got blown up, 500 years ago? Like,
they were all.
Well, not everyone was on it when it died.
Well, true, but like, you can't. Cadian can't still keep being the number one guard, platoon, infantry, faction, whatever it is, still, can it?
Well, apparently there were like millions and millions of troops elsewhere in the galaxy, so I think that's their justification for it.
Fun. All right, there you go. So, moving on to Urban Conquest. We don't really know an awful lot other than this is going to be a new set of rules for fighting in confined spaces, or at least it looks that way. There's a whole series of images of people putting cards inside of binders and little stickers and things of that nature, going, "Ooh, look, it's like a campaign." And included in the video is a big box as well. So what do we reckon, Phil? Do you think we're going to get a big box of new fancy terrain and some rules to accommodate them? Or is it just going to be... I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think there's going to be a tiny amount of terrain, maybe. By the looks of it, what it is it's a campaign system where you create your own hive city using, as you said, these almost like card holders, slipcase binders, where you put some cards in. There's going to be reusable stickers that you can place on top to say who's conquered which area, and each card is a kill zone of some kind, which I guess then leads on to playing in different types of terrain and environments. So what's interesting is that they've just released they're going to release two campaign books. So you've got Vigilus Defiant, which has its own campaign system, and I guess that's meant to be a bit more like a historical campaign, whereas this one is kind of create your own, and it's a bit more dynamic maybe. It just seems odd that we haven't had a campaign system at all this edition. So that's 2 years, and then 2 come at once, just like a bus, I guess. But it does seem to be intriguing. Like it seems like it's a really cool concept. It'll be interesting what they do with it. If the box is just going to be a campaign system, or if they're going to be bundling in a load of scenery with it as well, which they could do. In the video, there is some specific, like, kind of scattered terrain that we've not seen before, so maybe it's just that, and it's just a way of enhancing your battlefield that you've already got.
There might be, like, depending on what kind of hive city you've got, then you get a bonus for having the specific things there, if that makes any sense. So one might be like a command node, or like an airfield, or a supply dump kind of thing. They're just representations of abilities that you have within your city.
Yeah, well, it almost feels like it's a clever way to make you buy more terrain, because it's like you can play this amazing hive city and you've got different zones which require different bits of terrain to properly play the game, but which is maybe what they're bundling in with it. But it'd be interesting to see if it's like Kill Team, where Kill Team is, yeah, you've got your main core set, here's a bunch of cool ruins, but if you want some more longevity in the game, you need to buy the Minotaurum sets or the jungle kill zone just to keep things interesting. So it'd be interesting if that's the angle they're trying to take it in. Not saying that that's wrong, but it's just interesting to see.
So essentially, it's going to be a more elaborate version of the realm system from Age of Sigmar 2, where it's I'm from the Fire Realm, and we're in the Fire Realm, so I've got Fire Realm, fire, blah. I don't know what goes on with that nonsense.
It could be a rare, like, circumstance of it not being entirely cynical, but it could just be like, hey, we've sold lots of our fans scenery, let's give them something to use it with. Rather than trying to sell scenery, because loads of people are picking up all the kits for kill teams. So people have got loads more scenery now, and usually people, when we especially when we get like tournament players, like here's the 6x4 board and here's like 3 pieces of scenery. But we've always got loads more. Like, it'd be cool to have, you know, like a specific rule set up for a more confined space with like less fire arcs available. I'm interested by that different way of playing Warhammer 40,000 that isn't just the same open battlefields but more confined spaces, of what that would mean. Is it just going to be campaign rules, or is it actually going to be some actual different rules that make more sense, for like different rules for cover that aren't just the same way they got on for movement, that make a bit more sense in a more scenery heavy environment.
There you go. What you're basically saying is you want it to slowly regress back into 7th edition, where everything's got more rules and stuff.
No, and then I want, you know, Greater Demons to be able to charge from flying. That's what I want.
Well, they already can do that in 8th edition. It's all happening. They're just not hard to hit on in those situations. But yeah, no, I reckon you should roll 2d6 when you move through the terrain and use the highest result as your maximum movement, and add in a bunch of other obscure, complicated elements, which, to be honest, there already are. I mean, you know, I think me and Joe were having this conversation the other day, because obviously we've been playing Imperial Knights a lot lately, and the game does seem to really have a wobbly when you start to try and use things like Imperial Knights and interact with things like ruins. Like, the game doesn't really seem to have very many answers to that. It sort of just goes, oh, I don't know, just can't go in. There you go, sorted. So it'd be interesting to see if they can elaborate and make things like Imperial Knights actually have rules that make them slightly more viable in these kind of heavily terrain situations. But yeah, Phil, did you have any closing thoughts on Urban Conquest?
Well, it was pretty much what Richard touched on, and it was like, so it is a campaign system, but I wonder if they're going to sort of do a much better job of fleshing out the scenery and terrain rules, because there are some in the sort of city fight element of the big rulebook, which are actually pretty good, and it's a shame that hasn't sort of drip-fed down into the match play rules, or just the core rules in general. So it'd be interesting to see if there are more scenery-specific rules in this set. that mean, like, if you're shooting down on someone, you get a bonus, or, it's easier to get more cover saves, or if they're... Yeah, there could be a bunch of different rules that they do that will make it a bit more interesting, as well as that kind of Killzone style special rules that affect the whole battlefield that you get in Kill Team. That would be really interesting as well.
No, absolutely. Cool. All right, so next on the ever-expanding list, we are... What are we now? We're in the closing moments, I would say, or the closing few bits. So Wrath and Rapture, the Realm of Chaos. Now, this is obviously equal parts 40k and Age of Sigmar, but it's still 40k, so we're going to talk about it probably quite briefly, because Realms of Chaos has been somewhat in the public domain for a little while now. But it's Slaanesh demons versus Khorne demons, booby horses versus... crazy dog creatures. What do you reckon, Rich? You sort of like demons and so on. What's your opinion?
I do. I've never really liked Khorne because I think that is it's too obvious. But I've always liked the Slaanesh style, and the idea that you're finally getting some new, I'm assuming, Beasts of Slaanesh now looks really cool. Not just that, because I'm pretty sure they are now bigger than the Keeper of Secrets model, which means the new Keeper of Secrets has to be on the cards as well in the future, which will be really cool. And I'm impressed. And I was when the I don't know what the name of the model is, but it's the Herald of Slaanesh playing a harp, which is a dead person.
We assume dead. He might not be dead yet.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that model, I was like, "Is this a conversion or is this an official model?" Because the first time we saw it was like someone's phone picture in a cabinet, so you're never certain. And there's like, "Oh wait, no, this is legit, actually a model." And I was like, "Wow, they're going for it." With when it looks at it with Slaanesh, they're not like just wussing out or saying, "Now we're not going to do that." It looks like some real Clive Barker-esque Hellraiser kind of horror stuff. I'm like, that's incredible that they're actually going to it. So I'm so excited for whatever new stuff they do. I've got no idea what it could be. It will probably make me... I probably won't end up buying it because it'll just be unpleasant to paint. Because little known fact, I worked on some Hellraiser comics a long time ago. I mean, do the framing device so it could come on PSP, and it gave me nightmares. So I'm not entirely excited about these new models, but they just look so cool. Like the idea that everyone thought, they'll dumb down Slaanesh, or that they're not going to get anything to come, and it's like, oh yeah, here's just we turned a human who may or may not be dead into a harp, and that's going to be like this new figure to go out there, similar to. I had a similar feeling when I don't remember his name, but he was the giant snail guy for Nurgle. The guy who's riding that snail, and it's like, it was so out of left field, but so epitomized the route they were going. So I am really, really excited for not necessarily what's in the box, because it's mostly stuff that's like Demonettes I've already got, but the Beasts of Nurgle look cool. The Khorne stuff, I mean, it's a three-headed dog, which just seems like he's going to hurt himself with those heads and those collars, which does look cool. I'm assuming, is that supposed to be Cranach?
Yeah, that is, I think, specifically supposed to be Cranach, the three-headed one. So there's that, and then there's the regular flesh hound, Khorne, whatever they're called, things. Which they haven't done a plastic kit for up until now. So previously, when I was running Khorne stuff, I would use the generic Chaos Hound models to represent the Flesh Hounds, but yeah, now that they're actually got proper models, that's very, very exciting.
I think what's also really interesting is it's a Chaos versus Chaos box. That's something that they haven't really talked too much. I mean, lore-wise, the Chaos Gods have always been at war with each other, almost more than with the real world. But it's the first time I've ever seen that actually within an officially released product. It's like, yeah, here's two sets of bad guys fighting each other, which I think is awesome, because Slaanesh and Khorne are the polar opposites.
Yep, absolutely.
Or are they? No, they're not.
No, so it's Zench and
it'd be Zench and Khorne.
Yeah,
the
polar
opposites.
Who don't get on very well, and then it's Nurgle and Slaanesh who are like.
Are you sure? I'm sure I read somewhere recently that it was Slaanesh and Khorne.
Well, none of them really get on with each other in any way, shape, or form, right? I think it's all... maybe it is... Yeah, because Zench is all about change, and then I think Papa Nurgle doesn't get along with Zench for the fact that he's all about kind of preserving things in a horrible state of...
Nothing dies.
Hmm?
Nuggle's like a nothing ever dies, it will just live on and...
Yeah, whereas I think he doesn't like...
Vile.
He doesn't like Zench because it changed it. Anyway, they all don't get along on some level. I mean... You know, even within the Khorne ranks, like Bloodthirsters fight with Bloodthirsters to fight for the right to emerge in real space and go and terrorize things. So they all constantly just continue to smash each other up constantly. It's a horrifying bloodbath of a thing. But again, I mean, from my side of things, this all looks really nice. I think, again, it's cool to get more demon stuff out there. It's going to be really interesting to sort of understand what the rule set's going to be around Realms of Chaos, whether Realms of Chaos is becoming some new adaptation of a game, or whether or not it comes with rules to play it as 40k and Age of Sigmar simultaneously, which is going to be really interesting, or whether it's a rule set on towards itself. So, yeah, I think, you know, from my side of things, it looks interesting. I mean, it's not something I'm going to rush out and get. But it's good that they're expanding the Realms of Chaos, and the fact that the box set specifically has that title of Realm of Chaos, Wrath and Rapture. That's something I think is really quite compelling and interesting for the future, for sure. Any opinions on that, Joe?
I think it's all round super good. I think the Realms of Chaos thing, it means that like it's just going to be extra rules for playing Age of Sigmar and how it affects your game. So, like, within the game, you've got the Realm of Fire, so all your fire spells are better. You've got the Realm of Life, so you regain wounds better. I think you'll just have the Realm of Chaos. Everything's just going to be super weird. Nothing's gonna work how you want it to work, kind of thing. Would be my theory. It'd be cool because maybe we might see like a Zench and Nurgle one later on.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So last thing we're going to talk about. Obviously, we are aware that Chapter Approved does also feature in this. But we know that Chapter Approved will be something we'll talk about in more detail in the future once it becomes a real thing. Obviously, Grey Knight's getting cheaper, yay, and Adeptus Sororitas / Sisters of Battle coming out with a beta codex, yay. We can talk about that when we know more in the future, unless anyone has anything very, very specific they want to talk about with what they've heard about Chapter Approved.
No.
It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? It's gonna, when it comes out, we'll worry about it. But you know, in terms of what they've revealed, it's all sort of like, okay, Grey Knights, and okay, other stuff. Oh, I can make my characters better. Apparently, I'm sure I can't really, and it's only a narrative play, so you know, fair enough, whatever. So yeah, the last thing to talk about is none other than the Warbringer, the Warhound, Reaver, Warlord. These names that mean something special to Warhammer fans, the iconic god machines that most of us, on some level, would love to own one day. Well, now we have the Warbringer. So this is a fabulous new addition to the range of Forge World Titans. I say fabulous in an entirely sarcastic manner, because I'm not super keen on it. Admittedly, it's sort of growing on me as time goes on. It's definitely got some sort of charm to it, but I just really am struggling to understand why anyone out there is buying this kind of model. It's going to be absurdly expensive, I can only assume. It's going to be an absolute pain in the arse to put together. I'm not overly sure what they were going with the aesthetic, because it sort of looks to me like a bit of a T-Rex. It's got the little arms and the big head and cannon coming off of it. Transport is going to be a nightmare. And again, I just never really understand how anyone has fun fielding these kind of units within regular 40k. Again, obviously, I appreciate that I'm not really someone who has ever really understood what the appeal is of these gigantic Titans taking place in games of regular 40k. So maybe one of the guys has a difference of opinion or some insight that they want to add to that. Phil, what do you think of this? Would you ever want to buy this? Would you ever want to play this? What's your feeling on it?
Well, I absolutely love the Reaver Titan, and if I could one day own a Reaver Titan, oh my god, yeah, I would totally buy one. This, however, I don't think I would. I mean, it's lovely, well painted by our good friend Giuseppe that we know. He's a four-drawer painter.
Name dropping there, Phil.
Totally name dropping. Well, actually, he's no longer four-drawer. He's left, and he's now a freelance commission painter. But this was his last big project, so he's done a great job on it. But I'm not a fan of the model. Like yourself, I think it's growing on me slightly. Reading up on it, it is slightly between a Reaver and the Warlord, so it's like a middle class between the two. It's meant to be a Titan killer, hence the big gun on the back, and that's why it's got much more heavily armoured carapace on the front. Which is, so I kind of get all the elements that they've done, and it's clearly, to me, a Titan that they've designed for Adeptus Titanicus, but it obviously makes sense to do it in 40k scale first and then scale it down. Because it's a Titan killer, like Titan, I can't see much use of playing it in 40k, unless, of course, you're someone that does these mad apocalypse games where you're fielding a couple of these on either side, or you're someone that wants to have one of every Titan. To me, it just feels like they've released it in 40k just because, and actually really it's going to be a model that people are going to buy like mad in Adeptus Titanicus, because that's where you want to have a Titan killer, because you're going to have 4 or 5 Titans at least on the battlefield.
No, I can definitely obviously see the use of something like this within Adeptus Titanicus. I think, I think definitely the paint job's amazing. Credit where credit's due. The bizarrely the sort of pose of it, again, as I say, it is sort of growing on me, but I never understand the necessity or the desire to own these kind of models within the 40k scale, because when I have gone to Warhammer World and I have seen people play with these sorts of Titans, and they never get moved because they just basically just sort of smash them down on the board on one table edge, and there's no way you can really put them, so they're entirely static, and then it just becomes a game of going, well, I've got 50 dice to roll, and blah blah blah, and I can't be killed, and all this sort of stuff. So don't get me wrong, I mean, you know, if you want a real kind of feeling of overwhelming power, I'm sure bringing one of these things along gives you that sort of hit. But to me, I just sort of look at it and go, it's good, but it's.
They're really collector's pieces. I think someone's going to enjoy modelling and painting it, and it's going to be a project that's going to last you months and months. I'd be surprised if someone would ever buy it to be like, oh, I'm just going to take down my local gaming club just to smash people in a game. I don't really think that is the case. In fact, probably people will take this and it's just for big apocalypse games or for narrative missions. That's my view on people who would probably buy them.
I think you're underestimating people's lust for victory.
I think it's hilarious as a model. I love that it's the size of, it's a Titan, but it's got this little observation deck where tourists can look for these little telescopes.
Yeah, the observation deck tourist thing is quite brilliant, but which I think even they know, because that's the thing they highlight. Even they know that's the only good thing in it. It's a giant stupid thing that probably exists only because they begin with saying the Warhound, Reaver, and Warlord, and it's almost like this model exists just to make some of them seem cheaper and some of them seem more valuable. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's great, isn't it? Warhound, Reaver, Warlord. These are names that mean something special. And here's one that doesn't. The Warbringer.
Yeah. Here's one that's never really appeared in the fluff until now. It's the Belisarius Core.
Whoa. Don't say things like that, Joe. You know someone out there being like, no, I think you'll find you're wrong. Don't make these assertions. I bet this existed somewhere, sometime.
It's many moons.
If they're going to make a new Titan, they should have. I would have thought if they just redid the Imperator, because I remember that from Epic 40,000.
That'll
That
be
would
coming.
be huge, though. That would be like the size of a small child, but bigger than...
Isn't this the size of a small child?
Okay, let's say it'll be about the size of a red letterbox from oldie days.
Right, there we go. What a fantastic comparison. So it's a tiny, one of the ones that sits on a telegraph pole.
No, like one of those freestanding ones.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's a actual standing Royal Mail letterbox size model.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's,
that's
so
how big
it's,
an
so it's
imperative
7
would
foot
be.
tall.
It'd be huge. Because you
Oh,
think,
sorry,
like,
you're talking about a different Titan here. You're talking about the one Richie called out.
yeah, the Imperator.
Right,
the
sorry.
Imperator holds entire chapters of Space Marines in its legs.
Yeah, the problem is though that is based on like artwork. It's like the scales have always been off, and that was one of the things the designers wanted to fix effectively in Adeptus Titanicus, and like actually define fixed heights for everything, because based on different books, the scale of even like the Warlord Titans varies quite wildly. So I think now they're going to have a strict height for everything, and I think the Imperator Titan probably isn't going to be as big as it used to be, because I think it might not one day be a 40k model, but it's definitely going to be coming to Adeptus Titanicus at some point down the line.
So there we go. I'd say that's pretty a reasonable summary of everything that was the Vigilus Open Day. Unless anyone has anything else to elaborate on, I feel like we should move on and hear about Richie's GT Heat-Free Army. Any thoughts or feelings at this point?
I think it's probably best not to have thoughts and feelings. It gets too complicated.
It's true. It's true. Well, with that said then, let us transition into the next closing segment of this week's, or rather this episode of the Lookout Surf 40k podcast. Because we don't do these weekly, even though the temptation is to say weekly, when we shouldn't, because that's not correct. Anyway, I digress. Here are some transitional noises. I did the opening ones. Anyone want to do it?
It should always be you, Dan.
Just me. I'm exclusively in charge of these. I feel like maybe Rich, seeing as they're going into the segment for Rich, should do this one around. Rich?
Okay, like some transitional noises. Show me timbers, show me timbers.
Welcome everyone to the last segment of the show, where we're talking with Richard about his GT heat list. If you're not a regular listener, should I say, we're all off to Warhammer GT's Heat Free in just over a week's time. So we should all be panicking about the models that we've not painted up. Richard, you haven't done a GT Heat before, because we all went without you last year, unfortunately. So how are you feeling about coming along with us this time?
Well, no, yeah, you just ditched me because I moved to America. You scallywags, you.
I mean,
That is exactly it.
that can hardly be our fault, can it, that you moved to America? Like, unless we massively incentivized it somehow. An elaborate scheme to get you a job in America. That'd be mad.
Like, I did I did enjoy all of your tales and stories of the various heats you went to, and how some of you didn't even do very well but still got to the finals. So I'm very excited this year to be coming along for the ride, and I'm just hoping I don't come up against your Hemlocks, Dan. That's the main thing.
Well, they are bothersome. Although, I think, not to spoil your list, I think your list has a lot of very good options against the Hemlocks and or the army as a whole. But, the Hemlocks will get a points adjustment in chapter approved. It just has to happen. They're too cheap and they're too good for what you pay for them. So, yeah, I am exploiting or enjoying a relative, Renaissance or sweet spot for the Hemlock at this stage. But yeah, that's going to change going forwards. But I agree, they're not much fun to play against if you're looking to win.
No, so I'm very excited. This is going to be my first GT. I've been to many tournaments at Warhammer World before. Even won one back in the day. Won a doubles tournament, if I recall, with some guy who's gone on to better and greater things. Forgot about me, discovered Hemlocks, but we did. We did win a tournament back in the day.
We did,
Still
yeah,
very
absolutely.
proud of that.
with the amazing combination of Zench Demons and Thousand Suns, which I think there was a guy, what's his name? He's from White Dwarf. I think his name's Dan. I'm going to say Dan, or it was either that or Jez, but either way, it was. I think it was Dan from White Dwarf, and I was talking to him after we'd won that particular doubles tournament. Oh, so what's in your army list then? And I was just like, and it was essentially one of everything from those codexes, so it was like really fluffy. It wasn't actually very good, arguably, but we just played it so much over the year or whatever it was, we just learned it inside out. So he's like, sorry, hang on, that just sounds like a regular army. That doesn't sound ridiculous at all. And I was like, well, yeah, but the synergies. I mean, we were taking, what was it called, that banner of flame or whatever it was that was killing people left, right, and centre.
Icon of flame. Oh, well, no, I mean, we don't have to spend too long talking about this, but as we're talking about it, because those are good old days. Back in 7th edition, I think it was. In fact, we did really well up until they changed the flying rule, because back then a greater demon could be flying and could charge from flying. Yeah. Which was sort of, when they changed that rule, we didn't win any more games.
There was that fantastic instance where the guys were getting really excited because they were like, "Oh, when you're flyer," because back then the flyers would come in from like reserves, I believe. They didn't start on the board, and then you could intercept with the quad gun. And he was like, "I'm going to kill your Helldrake before he even gets a chance to shoot." And then we obviously went, yes, but Vector Strike happens at the end of our move, whereas Intercept happens at the end of the phase. So I'm going to Vector Strike the guy by the gun. And then
we Vector Strike the squad by the gun, killed everyone by the gun, and then in our next turn, that was sort of, because that was back when everyone had an Aegis defense line of a quad gun.
Yeah.
And I remember the great thing we did was we did it once as a joke, and then we kept doing it.
Yeah.
Because back then, the Flamers of Zench had a really good ballistic skill, but they never fired a gun, so it didn't matter. Yeah. However, if you deep strike them onto a quad gun that's got no crew on it, then you can fire that quad gun hitting on 2s.
Yeah, it was ballistic skill 5, weren't they? They were crazy.
Yeah.
There were so many weird things we did with that army. It was mad. But anyway, let's not dwell on that.
Yeah, let's not dwell on that. That was years ago. Well, it can leak because shortly after that victory, we retired the blue meanies, as they were called. A good friend of mine who had some really good, well-painted models. I said, "Oh, these are really cool. What kind of models are these?" And this friend of mine said, "Oh, well, these are Forge World, Death Core of Krieg." And I was like, "Oh, these are really cool." And then he showed me these other ones they did called Elysian Drop Troops. I thought, "These look awesome. These look like straight out of like some kind of 80s action movie, but they're really expensive." And then eventually he talked me around into buying loads of them. And that friend is Phil. So thank my bank account thanks you, as does Forge Rob's coffers, no doubt, for introducing me to the Elysian Drop Troops, who sadly are can no longer be manufactured from Forge World. So I did a big job lot order earlier this year when they did their final last hurrah to the Elysians, and I finally got around to painting them all up ready for this tournament. So I'm looking quite forward to it, because I'm pretty sure no one else is going to take Elysian Drop Troops, because the internet has reliably informed me that they are not competitive. So
also, on the topic of people who have had influence on things, has Joe contributed anything to this story, or is he just here? Joe's done nothing.
I'm just here.
Joe, to be fair, Joe and you have contributed in some fashion, because when I'd originally planned out my 1750 points of Elysian Drop Troops, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. What shall I have to support?" Actually, I'll come on to that. I'll come on to that as a surprise.
We can go on to Joe's contribution later.
We'll go on to the other contribution, because there is a narrative that goes through it.
Okay.
For why I have the arm got, which is mixed Imperium. For those who are playing along at home and want to guess what it could be that I've mixed into this. At Phil's recommendation, I shall say about what's different about the Elysian Drop Troops compared to regular Astra Militarum. And you can find their rules in one of the Forge World books, the indexes. So the main difference between them and every other Astra Militarum is that every unit in the Elysian Drop Troops has aerial drop, which is awesome. It's not quite as awesome as it used to be about 6 months ago, but it's still pretty awesome in that it means that the entire army can deep strike. So in terms of flexibility for controlling a table, that's not a problem for me. It's like, "Oh, I need something over there. It can be there from turn 2. So that's really exciting. Next big change is their orders are slightly different to the regular Astra Militarum, in that I don't know which two they lose, but they do gain two specific orders that only they get. One is Hold the Line, which means that the squad will automatically pass any morale tests from the fight or shooting phase, which is pretty ridiculous. I've never used it, but I hear it's very good. I usually use first rank fire, second rank fire, and the other one they get is Move and Fire, which means the unit treats all of its weapons as assault weapons, which is pretty cool. It means some of your heavy weapon squads can move and shoot. Equally, it means that...
I was going to just... You're probably about to drop the... I'll let you finish before I interrupt.
I was going to mention the other fact that this is well known and hasn't been FAQ'd yet, is that the specific wording on that order says that all weapons become... All the infantry's weapons count as being assault weapons, which includes all their grenades, which means you can effectively... And as all Elysians have frag and crack grenades, it means the squad can be firing all weapons plus throwing frag grenades plus throwing crack grenades. Which means that while the Elysians aren't very good in close combat at all, they don't have any kind of special combat squad, if you do get it to point blank range of them, they will be throwing all the explosives at you in the world.
I mean that's not too bad though when you consider that it's really difficult for Elysians to end up in range of their grenades, because obviously they can't all just drop in anywhere they want to be. That would be if they could do that, that would be madness, right? Like crazy.
Well, it is possible if you dropped out of a Valkyrie, because then you can still move after doing your grav shoot insertion. So that would be the only way to do it.
What's the range of the grenade then? Sorry.
Well, grenades are 6 inches. To grab, shoot, insert, you've got to be 9 inches away from someone, I think, but then you can still move after you've done your grab shoot, because you basically disembark and then you can move, so you can be within that range.
Sure. Okay, so you can, in the case of Valkyries, do it, but if you're just jumping on the board, so you have to wait till you've been on the board a couple of turns before you can start doing all that.
Can you do like a grab, shoot, insertion and then do the move order?
Yep, you can do that as well.
So that would get you into range with the grenades.
Well, you can just move because you don't need to use
move is instead of shooting, so you can't.
Oh, okay.
But you can do move and fire, so which means everything counts as assault. So you can grab, shoot out, move 6, and then move, advance another 6, and then still throw your grenades.
Oh, that's all right then.
I was also, actually you're probably going to touch on that as you get into the army list, but I was made aware by you as well that there's some also very weird things with how special weapons work in their squads as well. Is this the time we want to talk about it, or am I getting ahead of myself?
We can talk about... I'll talk about it when we come to the squad, but yeah, because in this particular list I'm going through, which is list number 27/B of my... I'm going through, it does have special weapon squads. This particular one we're going to talk through doesn't have a Valkyrie, although I might swap it out between now and the tournament. We'll see. But I'll start
going to do what you did last time when we went to the double, and you were still writing your army list in Bugsman's just before.
I was still writing the army list while we were grabbing a cheeky McDonald's breakfast on the way there, and then I rewrote it again in the car, and then I rewrote it again when we got to Bugsman's.
Efficient.
Which was definitely worth it, because I definitely didn't, finish in the bottom quarter in that tournament.
Okay, go on, Richard. Talk us through the.
Okay, so I have three detachments. We'll start off with.
How many
the Elysians?
Is your army in total?
I have. So what have I got? I've got 5 in that one, and then 3 there, so 8 plus whatever I get for being Battleforged.
3.
So is it another... So 11 then.
That's pretty good.
I have 11 CP. And my first attachment is my Elysian Drop Troops, which is a battalion. And in this I have 2 HQs, which are 2 company commanders. Elysians can have company commanders and they can have Lord Commissars. Both of them have orbital drop, but the Commissars aren't really worth the extra points, because the big advantage Commissars give you is summary execution. for those who run Astra Militarum, which means if you fail a morale chest, you can shoot someone and then re-roll it. However, the company commanders just have Iron Discipline, which means they get to re-roll the failed morale tests without killing anybody because they're that organised. So the Commissar's not really worth it, so I haven't taken any of those. But in terms of what they're armed with, the backup one, as well, the one who's not my commander, he's armed with a Power Fist and a Bolt Pistol. And my actual commander, who will be leading the army, he's armed with a Lasgun with an Auxiliary Grenade Launcher, a Power Fist, and the Death Mask of Orlanius is what I'm going to take for him as his relic, because I'm not that much of a fan of a lot of the other ones that the Astra Militarum get. But Phil will no doubt say, no, you should take Crow of Aquila, as will probably most other guard players, but it's been nerfed a bit, and I kind of like the idea of having the 4+ invuln and getting extra wounds back on my commander.
I mean, you could take both, because it costs you 1 CP to gain Corvus Aquila, and then there's a good chance you'll get that back, but considering you're only going to... I mean, on average, you could generate 5 to 6 CP from it during the course of the game, so it still might be a worthy trade-off.
Does the Aquila work when the model is off the board?
No, you've got to be on the table.
It does now.
Oh, does it now? So what? They changed it. Does it work when you're off?
I've no idea. Phil,
Right, okay.
I wasn't planning on taking it, so I've not read up on it.
Oh, fine.
Oh, right. No, I'm pretty sure you've got to be on the table. So you've got to basically, if you were like deep striking him, it'll be less efficient because he won't be on the board for like a turn or two, and you're only gaining it when your opponent spends it as well. So you sort of want to be on the table turn 1 to maximise that CP.
Yeah, so I can see in that situation that it might not be as effective, but it depends if Rich has anything guard-based in his army that hangs out at the back, but I'm guessing not if he's gone entirely Elysians.
I mean, not really. I mean, the Elysians, I've kind of taken a flexible battalion so I can hang back if I need to, but also so I can go on. I was very tempted to take a Commissar with the Emperor's Benediction, which I think is a grossly underused relic, because it's basically a high-powered... It's basically a plasma pistol, effectively, that upgrades your bolt pistol and it can shoot 3 times, and you can target characters with it, which is pretty cool. It's mostly useless for Astra Militarum, but however, for an Elysian...
Yeah, if you put it on your Lord Commissar, you hang on 2, so that is pretty good.
Yeah, so he can deep strike behind enemy lines and just character snipe. It's quite fun. But he's quite expensive to do that, so I haven't done that. Because a lot of my points have gone onto other detachments. And the Elysians are trying to fill in the gap blanks. Okay, so for my troops, I am taking 2 Elysian drop trooper squads, all armed with lasguns and 1 flamer in each of them. So they are just exactly the same. They are 57 points each. They can deep strike onto the board. Depending on what the objective is that game or where I need them to be, they might deploy them, I might deep strike them. What I like about them is that they're cheap and they can basically go wherever I need them to go on the board, which is kind of handy. Stats-wise, they are just the same as a regular Guardsman, Ballistic Skill 4, Weapon Skill 4, Flak Armor. But otherwise, they've just got a lot of flexibility in them.
Going slightly off topic, the old D99s, which were the Forge World specific regiment of the Elysian drop troops, they had better ballistic skill, didn't they?
Yeah, the D99s were like the Special Forces versions. They were like they were kind of like the Space Marines of Elysians, and they were specially bred to be Tyranid killers. And they had ballistic skill 4. They had ballistic skill. No, whatever the equivalent was back then. So they were hitting on 3s. And that was across the entire army, so that was quite insane because it applied to their vehicles as well. Sadly, though, they were decommissioned before the Elysians were.
Yeah, that is a shame because that'd be really good.
And they could also be led by the old version of Inquisitor Solomon Locke, who was really good in 8th edition. Or are we in 8th now? Which one are we in now?
We're in 8th edition now.
We're in 8th. Okay, he was really good in 7th because he had a 2-up save and a really cool sword and a really cool pistol, and now he's just got power armor and he's rubbish. So we miss Solomon. We miss good Solomon Locke. Okay, so I've got those 2 trooper squads to fill up those slots. Next up, we have the elites, and I'm taking 2 special weapon squads, which is a squad of six guys, and 3 of them can have a special weapon. And on both of these squads, I'm taking with plasma guns. So, which is very points efficient, only 51 points for each squad. And what's interesting about these, which is what you hinted at before, Dan, is the specific wording is that the models must take a special weapon. It does not replace their lasgun with a special weapon. So the squad, even though it's only 6 guys, if it still has the same output of a full squad of 10, which is pretty cool.
So that's crazy.
Although
right? So like,
yeah,
so...
I mean, it hasn't been, they haven't FAQ'd it yet, so I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, it basically means they can effectively they're running around dual wielding las guns and plasma guns.
While also, if you do the rule throwing 2 different types of grenades, which is bonkers. I mean that potential combination, and admittedly, right, if you got 6 dudes in the squad, 6 extra, or rather 12 extra lasgun shots at rapid fire range don't necessarily sound that impressive, but lasguns have a hideous tendency to guarantee shaving off wounds off of big things. It doesn't seem to matter how incredible the thing they're shooting at is, that, 4s to hits followed by, or 3s to hits probably in this squad's instances, but or case rather. Is it 3s or 4s to hit?
They're only 4s, so they're only 4s. So most likely, these 2 squads are likely going to deep strike in behind enemy lines with one of the commanders, and then he will issue them depending on what they're going for. If we're trying to melt something down, which has got high armor, then the plasma guns are the priority. So I'll use take aim. However, if it's like a horde and I've just got to just kill a lot of models, then I'll probably switch to first rank fire, second rank fire to get all the extra las gun shots.
Wow, yeah. Forget about that as well. So you get the extra las gun shots and then still fire all the plasma gun shots, which is bananas. Because obviously rapid fire weapons, if you've got multiple rapid fire weapons, they fire, so it's not pistol or whatever. So that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
how that works out?
Because even the standard Elysian drop trooper squad, if it's got a commander with them who can give them an order, and they use first rank fire, second rank fire, that means that their las guns are rapid fire 2, which means if you drop in, and you can deep strike 9 inches away, so that's within rapid fire range, so that's 4 shots per trooper. So that's all of a sudden he's like, here's a squad you didn't know was on the board, now it's on the board and it's shooting you with 40 las guns.
Yep, that's really good, and that's the sort of one order that I really wish the Krieg had, because it's just ridiculously good.
You can keep your hotshot las guns and shut up. We used to have access to those, we don't anymore, sadly. So we're taking the 2 special weapon squads with plasma guns. There is a variant of this list which I don't want to talk too much about, but I will mention it only because there's a particular weapon I really wanted to try and bring to the GT, because you don't see it anywhere else. Only the Elysians have it, which is the las cutter. Actually, that's not true. There's some heresy Space Marines who have access to it as well, but that's not 40k, so it doesn't count. But the las cutter, which is basically a las cannon you fire in close combat, and the Elysians can actually have access to that, and you can put them in a special weapon squad. And it's like strength 9, AP -3, D3 wounds per attack, which is quite insane that you've got guardsmen with the ability to do a strength 9 close combat attack.
Is it your D6 shots you're saying? Or D6
No, it's just one attack. It's close combat, so it's 1 attack.
Oh, okay.
It's 1 attack per attack you have, and then it does D3 visits.
Yeah, so you can boost the attacks, right?
You can boost the attacks. Thank you for leading me on there, Dan. Yeah. If I was going to take them, I've converted up one of my Elysians to be a Minister and Priest, which would double their attacks. So then they'd have 2 attacks each of these close combat las cannons, and I still might take them. It depends on if I want to have some fun at the tournament or actually try and win. To be honest with you, because I really would like to use the las cutters because they could be really fun, but they're just not quite as points efficient as plasma guns. But they would be really fun. But yeah, definitely check out those if you're interested in Elysian drop troops. The las cutter is something special. Okay, the final elite choice I've got is the Officer of the Fleet, who some of you guys on the cast will remember from previous tournaments we've gone to, in that these guys are very cool because they give the ability for any of my flyers to target and reroll ones. So they pick something within 18 inches and say, yeah, kill that. And then my flyers get to reroll ones, which is very handy, especially when comboed with a vulture with its Punisher cannons. The other cool thing they can do is they can also once per game call in air support, which is just pick something on the board. On a 4+, it takes D3 mortal wounds, which is quite fun. Just the fact that you can do that.
That is no bad thing. That is no bad thing at all.
It's just anything they can see. Roll a dice on a 4+, it takes D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it does 3 mortal wounds. So I remember in the last tournament we had, we were up against some very annoying Necrons. It was like, there's a Necron Destroyer in cover over there. Okay, 6, it's dead. Take it off the board. Nothing you can do about that, which is quite amusing. You can do that once per game. So I have to take one of the officers of the fleet just because they are very thematic and in a clutch they can do really awesome stuff.
Good times.
And my elite choices there, mostly this particular list, it's all about getting that plasma, deep striking in somewhere where I need to kill something that needs plasma to kill it, like Terminators or Marines or something equally annoying. Okay, and then for my fast attack, so this is the bit I'm most likely to change in this because it's very expensive. It's 172 points for 2 units, which is for 2 Taurus Venators, which are these awesome Forge World buggies, which have got twin las cannons on the top of them. And they are very cool because they have a special rule, which means they always count as stationary, so they're moving around the board really fast. They're hitting on 4s. They're shooting las cannons, so they can actually deal with anything big and scary that I need to be dealing with. They can basically be just running around sniping at big tough targets. And they are one of the few vehicles in the entire Astra Militarum which has an invulnerable save. Because if they move at least 10 inches, they gain a 5+ invulnerable save, which is quite cool.
I like that they get invulnerable save just from being fast and a bit nippy, which is a bit crazy.
Yeah, I think the only it's equivalent of like a jinx save. It's like, oh yeah, it's moving really fast, you couldn't hit them, which means they get the 5+ invuln, which as an Imperial Guard player, any concept of getting an invulnerable save outside of a refractor field is amazing. Which is what's really cool about these things. And the thing I'm really excited about with these is that they are very fast and they're maneuverable. So whereas a lot of my army, because it's called deep strike, I can be wherever I need to be on the board. However, once I'm there, it's very hard to get anywhere else. And that's what these Venators are going to be handy for, is because they can move around wherever I need them to be, whether I'm sniping at flyers or dreadnoughts or knights, or they can just be, I need to get in the side of the board to cap an objective. They can fulfill that need.
Yeah, because they've got a 15-inch move, isn't it? And they only get their invulnerable save if they move over 10 inches.
That's correct. I'm just going to look it up now on my thing, but I believe
it is correct because I'm looking at it.
Well, I wasn't doubting you, Phil. So I didn't mean to insinuate that you didn't know. But yes, they can move 15 inches a turn, which is really cool. But they are 86 points a model because of the twin las cannons. So I might downgrade them to multi-lasers, or not take them, because I can take a Valkyrie for the same price. So it's kind of that's what I have to weigh up. So they might change between now and the event. But I do really like the models; they look really cool.
Yeah, we did find that when we played in the doubles event where you took them, like they quite often just hung out at the back of the board. And because of their long range, like no one ever bothered with them, so just every turn we were getting 2 las cannon shots off, which was nothing to complain against.
Yeah, I mean it was 2 las cannon shots, and usually in all the others I've had, and this is no exception, there's always been something bigger and scarier that people are worried about. They're not worried about this little buggy that's running around at the back of the army, because it's got an invulnerable save anyway. So the few times they do shoot it, they usually don't kill it. And then people just overlook it, and the amount of times it's like taken the last 4 wounds off something big is all the time, which is really handy. But like I said, they are 86 points a model, so I might take them out or downgrade the guns, because the twin las cannon is 40 points, and I can save like 20 points a model by turning those into multi-lasers.
Fair enough.
They're hitting on forces, but they've got twin las cannons. They're quite good for taking out enemy like light transports, like rhinos and chimeras, stuff like that. So they're good for like a first blood or stopping enemy units from getting around the board. Quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I've really liked them for doing that, like popping transports. I mean, like, other games, it's like if there's like a dreadnought that's nearly dead, it's like, okay, we'll finish it off with these. They were kind of good as like, just driving around the board and being like the last things I'll shoot, because they can just usually finish something off. Because, and unlike every other guard vehicle that moves quickly, they're not hitting on 5s, because they do have a special rule that says they count as stationary even if they moved, which. Having been a Chaos Space Marine player for most of my life, switching over to Guard was a big shock, because I'm not hitting on 3s all the time. What's going on? This is ridiculous. So having vehicles which most of the vehicles hit on 5s, it is nice that you can hit on 4s. But I might swap them out because one thing that I'm always worried about with taking things like las cannons is that coming up against things which have loads of invulnerable saves, it doesn't matter so much that it's got a high AP. So I'm half tempted to take the multi-lasers instead, because that's like a guaranteed 6 shots at strength, was it 5? So that can be good. That can be a bit more flexible, and it could save me 40 points.
Strength 5.
So I might do that.
Strength 5 is good. I would say that the las cannon overall is still a better option, just because of the potential damage of it. Admittedly, obviously, the volume of shots means there's better odds that they're going to save against those reduced quantity of shots. But the ones that get through, you're more likely to feel, whereas hitting on 4s, wounding on... I mean, strength 5, most bigger targets, you're going to be winning on 5s. I can't think of any instances where it'd be a 6, but you'd be wounding most things on 5. So if you've got 6 shots, you theoretically hit 3 times, and then you wound 1 out of those 3 against a toughness 6 and beyond target, which isn't necessarily... Although weirdly, actually... Yeah, I think oddly, because if you've got 2 las cannon shots, you'd hit once... and 1 in 3 times you wouldn't wound, so 2 out of 3 times you should have wounded it. So weirdly your odds are kind of the same, but then if they fail the save against a las cannon, which is again more likely, they can take up to 6 damage, whereas for a multi-laser I'm guessing they take 1. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, the multi-laser. Yeah, the only other reason. Originally, I was actually looking at taking the multi-lasered versions because originally I was looking at taking regular Tauruses, not the Venators. Regular Tauruses have got either a heavy flamer or a 2d6 launcher. But the 2d6 kind of randomness of the amount of shots made me look at the multi-laser Venator, which was only like an extra 4 points, which seemed like a much better. Basically, I actually don't think the regular Venator is worth it at all. The regular Taurus, because for a few extra points you can take a Venator with a multi-laser, which is a guaranteed 6 shots at a higher strength. So, but then I was like, I kind of really like the las cannons though, and one thing that looking through the list at the minute is like in terms of long range, like dedicated, like real anti-tank as opposed to like just attrition. I didn't have anything in the list, which is why I went for the Venators of the las cannons. I
agree with that decision.
One thing I could also do, which I haven't done yet, but I might, is like Venators can take a hunter-killer missile. So for that first round of combat, they could get an extra crack missile being fired off as well, which I could do. Something I'm thinking about, but it's extra points.
Yeah, and it also makes them slightly more viable target as well, which removes some of their, their charm, I suppose. If it's doing that and las cannons, then you start to go, oh, hang on, that's a bit troublesome and quite an easy kill. So that's the thing, if you make them threatening, I think the more threatening they appear, I think the worse they are. So I think you're better off with the 2 las cannon, because again, when I more or less would feel comfortable guaranteeing that that those 2 las cannons are gonna polish off, do the last collection of wounds to vehicles more often than not, and then that crack missile. Yeah, I think the way you're talking about it sounds like the most sensible build to me.
Thank you very much, Dan. I like being sensible.
I would actually say if you've got the points left over to stick the hunter-killer missiles on it, because you're going to fire those turn 1 anyway.
That's true. true. Well, if I'm going to try and claw back some points, it will most likely be not to add Hunter Killer Missiles on. It will be to add in the twins from Blackstone Fortress, which, after hearing last week's podcast where you guys waxed lyrical about how good they could be, I'm very tempted to try and find a way to fit them into the list because they could be very fun. So if I did find a way to get some extra points, it would be purely to try and get those guys in.
Yeah, because those guys are super cheap.
Yeah.
There was the 35 points for that demo charge, which is really cool. It's actually worth the points. Unlike Elysian Drop Troops breaching charges, which are not worth the points at all.
Now, I was just looking at the rules for them, and it's like, in combat, roll a dice, on a 4-up, you do mortal wounds. What's wrong with that, Richard?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Phil. So the rules specifically are, it's a demo charge. You don't throw it. You just, in close combat, you on a 4+, so you're standard to hit. If you hit, you do D3 mortal wounds, which is really cool.
Or against the vehicle, you do D6 though.
I know that's really cool. Yeah, on a 4+, you'll do D6 mortal wounds against the vehicle. Here's the problem though: they are 25 points.
Are they one use only?
No, they're not. That's what makes them good.
They are. They are one. No, they are one use only.
It doesn't say that at all, though.
I'm sure they're one use only.
That's what I thought, but I checked the rules and it just says a model with a breacher charge may use it in the fight phase, and instead of attacking, normally roll a dice. It doesn't say it's still one use only. But I think that's why it's so expensive.
You've got the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. So I've got the ebook edition, which says each breacher charge can only be used once per battle, and that is why as much as they are cool and I would love to take them and test them out, you can't justify me taking to a tournament at all because they are 25 points for that one. It's basically, you got to look at this. It's 25 points for in combat for a chance to do D3 or D6 mortal wounds against the vehicle. For 25 points, you can buy an officer of the fleet, which can do it from distance for the same thing. It won't do the D6 against the vehicle, but you get those D3 mortal wounds at distance on a 4+. And they're just if they need a point deduction to make them worth taking, or they need to be changed so they always hit or something. Because as it stands, they're 25 points per breacher charge. That's it. That's way too many points.
I mean, if you want to,
it's just not worth.
If you want to put it again with the two rattlings. You're talking 17, 18 points for. Admittedly, obviously, it's the two good guys collectively, so 35 points. But you got the one guy who is a 2-wound character that can literally pop down from a thing, lob it 6 inches, hits on 2s, doesn't re-roll the 1s. The 1s are only re-rolled for the sniper if the other can draw line of sight. But still, 2+, and you're doing D6. D6 damage is pretty tidy. So I could see. I mean, that's the thing with those 2 rattling snipers from Blackstone Fortress. The thing that makes them super versatile and good is that if you just happen to have points left over, then they're an absolutely fantastic thing to put in. But equally, if you're trying to free up points to just get them in, I don't think you're necessarily going to feel the losses that it has taken you to get to the point where you've got those guys in there. So I agree. I think if you can get them in, they're great. But yeah, those whatever the Elysian combat variant you just talked about was actually called, they sound underwhelming for 25 points per model.
Yeah, the breacher charges are sadly very underwhelming,
especially when they're still only on a toughness-free 5-up armor save dude. Is that correct, or is it a 4-up armor save dude?
5-up armor save dude.
Yeah, see, I mean, geez, literally you charge into. I mean, again, even if most of the stuff that you're going to want to use that against, vehicles and things, if it's like a guard army, say, then obviously they can use the defensive gunner stratagem and just mow you down on the way in or whatever, or it's just again, that just doesn't sound like it's got very much functionality for the price of admission.
I don't know. Yeah. My personal feelings is if you could get a squad of 3 of them, admittedly that's quite expensive, and then you could use it to drop down on the back line of some artillery pieces, and you can get a charge off on them. I mean, you could be clever and try and charge at something that's maybe behind a building so they can't actually hit you maybe, but if you can get into combat with some tanks that is luckily not near some infantry, you can wreak havoc for a couple of turns because they won't be able to really deal with you.
True.
Now, maybe that's a bit.
You can wreak havoc for
event.
1 turn. Because then that's the way you drop the breach charges and you're done. Which is why I was going to take it.
One shot though, that is.
Well,
it is 1 shot. They FAQ'd it. It's 1 shot.
Let's let the voice of reason, Joe, cast his vote. What do you think, Joe? Would you take him?
I think they'd be all right because they'll pay for themselves. If you take 3 of them in a small squad, and then you deep struck down at the back, or you bombed it forwards with a Valkyrie, you could jump out and then take out an Armiger or like a Helverin, which will do you no end of trouble if it's just left to shoot at you. And it would give cause for concern for like a knight, because 3 of those guys going in will degrade a knight pretty sharpish. Admittedly, they get absolutely mushed in return, but they make their points back.
See, what you've basically said there, I mean, not to say that you're wrong, you're not wrong, but you're talking about 75 points for 3 dudes in a squad of 5 dudes, or whatever they are, 50 points in Elysians and the rest of it. So you've more than doubled, you've almost tripled the cost of that unit, and you're relying on a 3d6 roll, that even against the Armature Helverin, the odds of you actually successfully killing that thing on a 3d6 roll.
I'm not saying that they're great.
That's what the question was, Joe. Are they good? Would you take them?
There are alternate options, but I don't think that you should dismiss them as an option because they have a place. If you were playing like on a very tightly packed board with lots of scenery, they could get up front like fairly unmolested, and then just go in and pop a tank.
Potentially.
Yeah, but I was going to say, just checking the FAQ is where they have added in the line where it is 1 shot only, which is a shame. Because then they're pretty overpriced for what they do.
Which feels like they FAQ'd it, but they didn't FAQ the price.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Yeah.
Because at 25 points a model, that makes sense that you could use that every turn. Because that's similar to... Because then it's like similar in price to, say, a crack missile versus a hunter-killer missile. But at 25 points... Because to take them in a special weapon squad where you got 3 guys with breacher charges, that's going to be 105 points. Or alternatively, for 60 points, you can give them the las cutters instead. And I'd almost rather take the las cutters because then I can do 2 rounds of combat. Although they are guardsmen, so they're not likely to survive the first one.
I agree. Las cutters are better, and they're still bad.
I say that because I really want the breach charges to be good, and I really do hope they get FAQ to be more fun because I do miss them because they were in 7th edition they were a lot cooler. But now they're just kind of, when they work really well, but the rest of the time they're just kind of, what's the point?
Well, there we go.
Like if they automatically hit, they'd be worth 25 points. But the fact they only hit 50% of the time is like that's 25 points. That's 1 use only that might not work. That's ridiculous.
I was going to say, you wanted to combo the las cutters with the priest.
Yes.
That's not possible because the special rule for the las cutter says this model may only ever make a single attack.
What? No, it doesn't say that.
It's at the back of the book.
So the wheels are coming off. This is why you're not taking this stuff.
Where's this in the back of the book?
Page 120 of the main index. So it says, attacking with this weapon, a model may only ever make a single attack.
Well, there you go. So I'm glad I paid over the odds for those models.
Well, they're definitely going to write new rules for them at some point. I mean, they're very good at.
Oh yeah, definitely. They'll definitely rewrite the rules for the discontinued Elysian drop troops.
Absolutely.
Oh well.
We're going to have to homebrew
them. Then we have decided after some deliberation that there are things in the Elysian drop troops war gear that are not very good.
There you go. Boom. Moving on.
Okay, so then the final part of this for my Elysian Dropsuits Battalion is heavy support choice for 30 points, because no tournament-ready list is complete without a heavy weapons squad with mortars, of which is in this list, because you have to take them, because you can't you can't go to a tournament without mortars if you're Astra Military, and I can do that with my Elysians. I've got different versions of this. So I've got enough to take 2 squads, but I've only got enough points for 1 in this list. And yeah, these are standard mortars. They're just going to sit somewhere at the back of the board, ideally on an objective in cover, and just be annoying by causing damage to things that can't see them.
Brilliant. That's pretty good.
Solid battalion planning. Although interestingly, and I know I've waited a long time to bring it up, I think you only told us 2 of your 3 troop choices.
Nah.
Yeah.
My 2 choices were I've got 3 drop trooper squads.
Oh, I thought I heard you say 2. I am apologising. That was my mistake. What's next?
Next up is, well, so it's just been putting together a list in reverse order, because I started the last section I did was the Elysians. The next section we'll go on to is my super heavy auxiliary detachment, which keen listeners will already know what it is, because Phil talked me into having it because it's one of his favourite units in the game, and he didn't want to pay for it himself, so he got me to buy it.
Is that really what happened?
I think that's roughly what it was, wasn't it? No, I mean, I was really looking for something big and like a centerpiece unit for the army, so I went with the Marauder Destroyer, because it's, for those who can recall from Phil's high praise in the previous episode of the Lookout Sir podcast, it has a really good collection of guns on it. It's got 3 twin autocannons, a twin heavy bolter, and a twin assault cannon. Plus it's got a set of heavy bombs it can drop once per game. And it's got toughness 7, 20 wounds. It's a sky fortress, so it counts as stationary even if it's moved, so it's always hitting on 4s. And because it's a Lord of War choice, it can even cap objectives. So that's a 309 point chunk of my list going to that Marauder Destroyer, which I'm very excited to test out, because I really like the. I don't like the model at all. I think the model is stupid. So after much discussion with Phil, we decided to do a project where we are converting the Marauder Bomber, which looks much cooler. Phil's converting it up into me, so that we'll have the Marauder Bomber model, but with the armament of the Destroyer. So it's going to look pretty cool when it's finished. Phil's been giving me regular updates on it, and it looks really cool. So it's going to look a little bit like a AC-130 gunship, and it's going to be a big bomber, and it's going to have all the assault cannons, some on the front, but then some on the actual side of the hull, kind of all looking down, as it's flying high above the battlefield, shooting down of all its many different guns onto the poor saps below. And I'm very excited to use that. It's going to be very cool. It's going to be nice to have a great centerpiece that's well painted in my army for once, as opposed to me painting it, because Phil's graciously offered to paint it for me as a commission.
Yeah. And it will hopefully get painted on time as well.
It better have me.
There's a week to go, so I'll be cracking the whip and making sure it's done.
You've got 8 days, mate.
8
days.
No pressure. No, but I'm generally joking aside. I've always liked the look of this model for a long time, and then this was the right opportunity to have it in a list and take it somewhere, because the Elysians they felt kind of like weak compared to a lot of the other meta lists. Now, so that having something big with lots of guns would be really cool. And also it would be fun to take, because I don't think anyone else is going to take it or will have ever taken it. So I always like to bring a list to these kind of tournaments where they'll see something they haven't seen before. So that'll be exciting. I don't know if you guys have any questions about the Marauder Destroyer, other than because you kind of asked Phil all those the other week.
No, we're pretty well versed on the Marauder Bomber, unless of course I've forgotten.
I can't remember. Is it -1 to hit, because it is such a big plane?
Yeah, it's still -1 to hit.
No, which is good. Because that'd be my only concern if it was a Lord of War and there was no negatives to hit it, because it's a rather large target.
It's a rather large target. It doesn't have. This is a handy segue onto Joe's involvement. because it is a large target. It only has toughness 7. It's only got a 3-up armor save. It doesn't have an invulnerable save. So while it's very cool that I was having a list, I was like, well, I don't want to have it and then just get shot down in turn 1. That would really suck. So what can I do? What other options I have to make people not want to shoot it in turn 1? And Joe had the idea of, well, why don't you bring other big things? So there's multiple big things they can shoot at, which was a very compelling argument. And then I think both you, Joe, and Dan spent probably a good couple hours talking about the Paragon Gauntlet then, about all the cool stuff you can do with it and the Death Grip. So my final detachment is a super heavy detachment using Imperial Knights.
I can't believe it. An Imperial army with Imperial Knights in it.
I know, and I wanted to do it to try and get all the kind of best bonuses, because I was like, oh wow, look at all these bonuses you can get if you combo your units together. Why can't the Elysians be like this? Oh wait, it's because this is Knights and they're new and they're not discontinued. So I looked for all the different options there, and I wanted to make it so that I could get the right amount of bonuses to the Imperial Knights, but also fulfill the areas where my army was really lacking. And one area my army greatly lacks, being Astra Militarum, is close combat. So what I've got is 2 Armiger Warglaives. So they've got the chainsword and the melter cannon. So I've got 2 of those who are going to be going around fulfilling some of the anti-tank requirements I'll need, but also being able to just hack anything they want to in close combat. So I'm taking 2 of those. And then to complement them, I'm taking the Knight Gallant with what it comes with. Again, this is designed to be a nice big target so that people won't necessarily shoot at the Marauder on the first turn. And it's going to be just running across the board, smashing stuff up, killing all the big tanks and other knights that I'm going to no doubt come up against. And I am taking these guys as... Well, I'm going to be picking them up and taking them as the last of the House of Elysia, but they will be using the rules of House Tyrannus, because they looked really cool. And as I take them as a Battleforged detachment, they basically get 6+ Feel No Pain, which is very cool. And I am doing the Exalted Court and Heirloom of the House to the Gallant, so that he will gain not the Paragon Gauntlet. So sorry to disappoint you guys. I'm actually going to take the Ravager, which is the Relic Chainsword.
Wow. And
the Iron Bulwark, which ups his invulnerable save to 4+.
What does the Ravager do?
So what the Ravager does is the Ravager upgrades the chainsword, so it has the same stats as the regular gauntlet, not the Paragon, it's the regular fist. So it's got strength 16, does 6 wounds per hit, has -4 AP, but you also reroll 1s to hit.
That's really good. That's really good.
And
is it the -1 to hit though?
No, it is not -1 to hit. So I could still use the fist if I want to, just if I know I'm going to kill it and I just want to intentionally throw something at someone. But the bonus is the Paragon Gauntlet is that it does 8 wounds. Mm-hmm. Seems to be the big difference. Which doesn't actually seem, if you're taking the Gallant, just looking at the 2 of them, the Ravager looks like a far better choice, because it gives you that, because you get +8 strength rather than +6. So you're wounding pretty much everything on the game on a 2. Plus, if you're a standard profile, you're hitting on 2s, and if you're re-rolling 1s to hit because of the Ravager, which is its bonus, is like it seems like a really just too good not to pick. The only other heirloom I might pick would be Sanctuary, which gives you the 5+ invuln in combat. But I figure with a gap, I don't have to worry about that.
No,
I figure that I figure I'll charge first and I'll win. That's really the way it works.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, you tend to charge in on your terms, and you tend to smash what you go into. The only thing that the Paragon Gauntlet has going for it, and the thing that I'm always very keen to obviously state, is that against other kind of prolific, very powerful combat units, such as, say, an Avatar of Cain, for example, the Paragon Gauntlet's quite useful. Because it does enough wounds that theoretically, although an Avatar of Cain has a Feel No Pain 5+ thing going on. But if you get through with one attack against an Avatar King, you will do 8 damage, which is sufficient to kill it. Whereas, obviously, if you're doing 6, the thing is going to survive because it's got invulnerable saves followed by Feel No Pain. And that's the same with if you're fighting against, I don't know, a Mortarion or other things. That the extra damage does go a long way because it makes every one of those hits to get through so much more deadly. But at the same time, you're obviously going to hit more often because you're re-rolling ones. So, yeah, it's still... I mean, and the -4 is ridiculously strong anyway. So, yeah, no, I can't see any fault with it. And it's good to see someone just not taking the Paragon Gauntlet again, even though I'm very much in the school of the Paragon Gauntlet. It's my go-to relic. I think, it's super interesting.
I'm a big fan of the Gauntlet. I will be devil's advocate here and be like, the good thing about the Gauntlet with the 5 attacks, allowing for either 1 miss or 1 not to wound, with those 8 damage per hit, you are doing enough to instant kill another knight.
Oh, what, if you get 3 hits, 3 wounds?
Well, if you're running the... If you're running the Paragon Gauntlet, you charge in, you miss once, you don't wound once, you're still doing that 24 damage.
Yeah, which is...
As long as they're not running Tyrannus to try and get 1 or 2 6-up saves in, you're just deleting it in one go.
Most people aren't running Tyrannus as well, are they? Most people are running whatever they're called. The
Hawkshroud.
Yeah, Hawkshroud. I was going to say Gryffindor like an idiot, but yes, Hawkshroud's the right words, because they're very good. And they're the ones that can actually fight twice as well, though, right?
I think it's Griffiths that can fight twice.
Gryffindor! Anyway, I'll stop plugging that stupidness.
No, I spent a long time looking. I mean, it's a good point. I might look into it. Maybe switching to the Paragon Gauntlet. It's because it's a good point that you made that to do the 24 wounds in one go, you either need 3 hits of the Paragon Gauntlet or you need 4 hits with the Ravager.
Well, you can, I think,
or other wounds.
Choose before the game. So I'm not sure if they changed it compared to the last heat that we went to.
No,
so before
Grand Tournament. Sorry, Jake. Grand Tournament heats and Grand Tournament events is everything has to be declared up front. So you can't choose anything. It has to be stated on the list. You're referring to a doubles event that we did at Warhammer World where they allowed that, but in the Grand Tournament setting, it all has to be on paper when you arrive.
Fair enough. Because that would be helpful.
Yeah. I guess it comes from my perspective is a case of the way the 2 weapons up, and especially if you're using the Knight example, which is probably the best one, is that's 3 wounds with the Paragon Gauntlet can kill a Knight, whereas 4 wounds with the Ravager can do it. But the Gauntlet will hit on 3s, wound on 2s, versus the Ravager, which hits on 2s, rerolling 1s, and then wounds on 2s. So you'll need more of those wounds to go through, but it's so much easier to do than it is with Paragon Gauntlet.
I was expecting Joe to interfere and tell you that the Paragon Gauntlet also hits on 2s because it suffers no.
Oh, of course it does. Because it doesn't have the -1. It's very true.
Yeah,
so it doesn't have the reroll. It doesn't have the reroll ones.
Doesn't have the reroll ones, but again, on average, if you're rolling 5 attacks, you should only expect to miss 1. And then obviously, if it's super vital, you can use the command reroll for 1 CP. But again, it's it really dependent on what you're hoping to achieve. But I mean, on the whole, mate, is there any more for the army list? Anything else?
That's all for the army list.
Oh,
other than some of the tactics, how to use them.
Sorry, Richard. You sure you haven't missed out on some flyers?
Oh crap! I have missed out on a flyer. Sorry, I did miss out on a flyer. Only 1 flyer in this point to the list. Although now I'm thinking, should I switch to that Night House, which can reroll 1s when they charge?
You're getting distracted, man. Tell us what the flyer is.
Yeah, there's a flyer. So I have a flyer which is no. Some will say no. Astrum of the Timeless is without, but no Elysian drop troops list is without. Definitely, which is a Vulture gunship armed with a twin Punisher Gatling cannon.
Boom.
And a heavy bolter for good measure, because why not?
Twin heavy bolter or just the one?
Just a regular, just one heavy bolter. Just as kind of like doing the token gesture on the nose cone, and then the twin Punisher Gatling cannons on the wings. I was going to take 2, but then I didn't have time to build one, the other one. So I've only got 1 available. But I could. I've got a Valkyrie I could take as well, as an additional thing. But I might not, especially now we've confirmed that you can't do multiple attacks with the Lascar. So there's less incentive to do that kind of attack approach. So, but yeah, definitely 1 Vulture gunship with the twin Punisher Gatling cannons, which for people who haven't used or come up against that, it's a flyer, much like a Valkyrie, that zips around the board. But the Gatling cannons are heavy 40 strength. Is it 5 or 4?
Strength 5 for the Punisher.
Yeah, strength 5. So 40 strength 5 shots, hitting on 4s. Comboing that with the Officer of the Fleet means I reroll 1s. So it's going to pick a unit, and then it's going to get full of bullets. And provided they're not in cover, then they'll probably be dead.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, and I've seen that happen many, many times with that flyer. It is it's a scary beast.
Cool. So in terms of how I'm going to use this tactically, so while there's things like, oh yeah, you're just using Knights and the Paragon Gauntlet again, and using some deep striking plasma, which it may or may not be the meta. I should pay more attention. But there's all these units that I've kind of picked them to fulfill concerns I had. One, the reason we've gone for the very close combat themed Knights list is because I don't have anything that can do well in combat, and the best thing for taking out Knights is another Knight. We've got the Marauder Bomber because it will look really cool. It'll give a lot of firepower that can be roaming around the board, and then the drop troopers themselves can just kind of be wherever they need to be. Then we've got the sniping from the Venators and the Vulture. The other thing that's very important is that one of the rules they changed for deep striking is that half your points and half your units need to be deployed on the board at the start of the game, which makes it a little bit tricky. Which the main reason I haven't got a 100% Elysian drop troops, because there's no point in taking Elysian drop troops if you're putting half of them on the board anyway. You might as well have troops that don't have deep strike doing that, which is why like on the board turn 1. It's going to be my Marauder, the Vulture, all 3 of the Knights, which I think is nearly halfway, and then probably the heavy weapons team and maybe one of the drop trooper squad will be on the board, and the Venators will be on the board. So there'll be a lot of big scary things on the board turn 1 in the form of both the Armigers, the Gallant, the Marauder, and the Vulture. All of those are very big and annoying, so it'll be a case of for the opponent, which of these things do I kill first? Or what should I try and kill?
It's a good threat overload list, really. Because turn 1, that entire army is moving forward to the centre of the table. And your opponent then has to decide what they're going to deal with first. And if they don't take out one of those things, they're in trouble for turn 2.
I could state or speculate what I would target first, but I won't give it away for, I'll leave it till the aftermath of the event to state what my
Is it the Gallant, Dan? Are you going to shoot the Gallant on turn 1?
I wouldn't comment. No, at this stage. That isn't.
Why would you not comment? Are you that concerned that if we come up against me in the tournament?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Actually, no. Oh, no, you wouldn't, would you? You'd go for the Marauder because you'd be scared that shoot your hemlocks out of the sky.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about that either. The Marauder can't really do anything against hemlocks, so yeah.
You can't shoot them.
Yeah, can it though? -2 to hit in most instances, -3 when I needed to. Yeah, I'm not worried.
Oh gosh, I hate those. Can chapter approved come out before the tournament?
I'm afraid not, Rich. I'm afraid not. I feel like we should potentially wrap this section up, unless anyone has any specific extra bits that they want to touch upon.
Yeah, two questions. How does Deep Strike work in the new rules? Is it just points, or is it model count as well as points? Like, in terms of a half to be on the table?
It was previously just points. It's now points and units. So I have
before it was power level and models. Now I guess it's points and models.
So I have 16. It's unit. It's not models. It's units and points.
Okay.
So it's not a case you can't just have like a big knight and then everything else is deep striking. You have to be the amount of units. So I have 16 units in the list. So the knights is 3, the flyers another 2, so that's 5, and then the heavy weapons squad and the 2 venators and the vulture. So yeah, all that stuff will be on the board on turn 1.
Okay.
Either in cover or obviously they will like please shoot at this rather than anything else. And then whereas in the subsequent turns and this will depend unless I need to like hold the line or hold objectives, then I might put this in my deployment zone, and I've got drop troopers who you can deploy to get those. But otherwise, the drop troopers and the special weapon squads, they will come down from turn 2 wherever I need them, where their objectives they need to grab, or to get into positions to take out knights or no, not knights, like terminators or other stuff like that.
Cool. The other question I had was, you told us what your relic was that your warlord's taking, but what is his warlord trait going to be?
Warlord trait does that have to be chosen before the tournament?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will most likely go for... I want to think about that. I'm tempted to go with Old Grudges and send him in with the special weapon squads, but I don't see those squads lasting very long. So
yeah. Well, Grand Strategist might, I mean, it's the cliche one that everyone goes for, but might actually help your army because you've got knights and you want to maximise your CPs as much as possible. So that might be worth taking. Although I am a fan of Old Grudges as well.
Yeah, if we can't mix it up before the tournament, then I'll probably go with Grand Strategist. But depending on what I would need to do, like if there was, because I'll definitely send one of my commanders down with the special weapon squads, but they'll likely turn up, and then they'll either if they don't kill whatever they needed to kill, or even if they do, they'll probably get killed the next turn out of pure anger and revenge. So.
With Grand Strategist, I know it gives you a free to hit, to wound, or save, doesn't it? But is that only on the commander, or can that be used on something else?
Give me 1 second and I'll check.
I think it can be used on something else. It's one free reroll, isn't it?
Yeah, you just get one roll per battle. It doesn't say it's specific for him, but he has to be alive when you do it.
Yeah,
that's useful to keep the clutch moments on the knight, basically. That's what you're going to be using it on every game.
Mm.
But again, you've got to use that on a model that's going to be on the board from turn 1, because you want to be getting your command points back when you're spending them straight away, basically.
You could do it to the officer of the fleet, but then I guess that probably isn't a very wise strategy.
No, he's definitely deep striking.
Oh, they're all deep. Okay, fine.
Yeah, the officer of the fleet he will drop down somewhere, usually in the middle of the board, so that he's within range of the other units. So that he has to be within 18 inches of another squad, of an enemy squad, so that he can give the kill command, so the vulture can reroll ones.
Yep.
Important distinction: I can't use the officer of the fleet to reroll ones for the marauder, unfortunately. That's because he can only issue it to Elysian drop troops vehicles, not Aeronautica Imperialis vehicles.
Okay. Other question for me, actually. So what am I counting? About 14 drops for this army? Is that about right?
I got it at 16.
Wow, 16, crikey. And there's nothing you can do to reduce that number. It's always 16.
As in the amount of units?
Yeah, the amount of units.
I could technically put the Venators together as into one squad, but I don't
it's
think...
not going to be enough of a saving. So basically you're not concerned or worried about the +1 for the roll-off, really? It's not something that you're overly concerned about?
No, I mean, it's not something that I can make the list to do. I mean, I could put the Venators together to save one, but because they don't have... they can't, I forget the rule, but they don't break apart. If I take them together, they're a squad, and they still remain a squad. The Warglaves are separate because I wanted to make sure that I could get have three knights in the detachment. So there's not much I can do to reduce the amount of squads that I've got, short of removing squads and making existing squads better.
No, of course. It's just interesting, I suppose, because I guess as well, given so much of your stuff's going to go into reserves, I guess obviously you style by going, right, well, just so you know, 8 of these things are going in reserve straight away, so if you've got 8 drops, please deploy your entire army in front of me, and then I can make tactical decisions based on what you've done. So I suppose it's not a terrible scenario overall, because you are given some tactical nuance with that, but it's it's interesting, because a lot of people still, even though it's not as powerful as it was earlier before the FAQ, the whole guaranteed going first scenario, having less drops is still seemingly in people's mind. But I think it's good. I think that's the thing. It still can swing either way with the way the rolls are. Amazing. That sounds really great, mate. Thanks very much for taking us through it all. It sounds awesome. Can't wait to see it all painted and out on the tabletop. I'm looking forward to playing it, even if it isn't being played against you in the official tournament. I'm looking forward to doing some playtesting on the Friday before, if nothing else. That sounds awesome.
As am I. I'm looking forward to seeing how. It'll give me an opportunity for saying, how do you deal with these hemlock things?
What do I think about those? And
no, the way I understand it is you just have to pretend you're playing orcs no matter what you've got, because you're only going to hit it on a 6.
That's it. Well, and if it's of any interest to you, I would always prioritise your vulture if I could turn 1, because I don't like those 40 straight 5 shots. My army does not appreciate that, so I would make sure that was dead early doors, and then move over to the Marauder just to free up some pressure on my ground troops, specifically my jet bikes, because again the Marauder's not much fun for my jet bikes, because obviously it's strength 7, which is winning those jet bikes on freeze. It's -1 because of the autocannon. I'm talking about the autocannons here specifically, but obviously the autocannons 2 damage is quite terrifying to the jet bikes, because that'll just kill them in 1ers essentially. So yeah, I'd probably go Marauder, well, Valkyrie, then Marauder would be my order of preference in terms of the opening assault, because I just need that dead. And then from there on in, gallants and all the other stuff don't overly worry me, but that's my army. Yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, so that concludes episode 10 of the Lookout Serve 40k podcast. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening this far and obviously continuing to support our efforts here. Obviously, thank you very much for Richie for being our special guest this week, as it were, all the way from the US for now anyway, travelling over next week, right, mate?
Yes, I'll be back just in time for the tournament.
Wonderful. You're staying for a little while as well, right? You're going to be over...
I'm staying for the holidays, or Christmas as you people call it.
Wonderful. So we shall have another chance to play some games together, if nothing else. So before I do the whole wrap-up thing, does Phil or Joe have anything to add at this final moment?
It's been magical.
Phil?
I'm looking forward to our 10th episode cake that you've been promising me.
Absolutely, mate. I'm going to present it to you when we arrive at Warhammer World or the B&B that we're staying in Nottingham. So I will endeavour to get that to you.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, don't be too concerned if it just looks like a Colin the Caterpillar cake with me having carved out some sort.
Oh, mate, I'll be so looking. I love a Colin the Caterpillar cake.
There you go.
I've had one of those every birthday.
I've not had one of them in 2 years.
Have you not had a Colin in 2 years?
I don't have Colin the Caterpillar. They've got weird cakes over here.
They're all full of sawdust.
They're all full of corn syrup and other nonsense.
Terrible.
Only good cake you can get is if you make it yourself.
Anyway, so thank you very much for all your support and for listening to episode 10 of the Look at 40k podcast. We really hope you've enjoyed it. Please check us out on all the various social media platforms which we exist. I feel like we should probably get in the habit on the YouTube side of things of actually having those called out on the graphics we use without being too aggressive. We don't want to become too salesy. I'm not super down for the salesy pitches.
Everyone should like and subscribe and ring that bell.
Absolutely, do all those things because that's what we're all about. Hopefully we'll put something together while we're over at Warhammer World. Depends on how the weekend goes. I had this aspiration of filming some kind of round table thing where we all do a little bit of a prelim thing around what we think will happen in the weekend ahead, but likelihood is we'll probably find ourselves unable to do that for various reasons, but we'll try. I'll put the equipment in the car.
When we're there on the Friday, quite often a lot of people who travel up go and do playtesting, so that'll give us a rough idea of what to expect.
It's just whether we find the time to document that in any way, shape or form, or we just go out and enjoy chicken wings and beer. But we'll see how it goes.
We could do it on a bench, half cut, like after chicken wings and beer. Like Phil can be asleep on the end, drooling.
Well, just to confirm though, Dan, could this be the first tournament we've ever gone to where you're not painting your army the night before?
Let's not be hopeful. let's not go crazy. I'm almost there. I've got 10 more bikes, and arguably everything I've got is painted to a tabletop standard. I just want to do better, but I'm probably not going to get there. I'm just going to be happy with what I've done. Anyway, that's enough of that. So that was episode 10. Thank you very much for listening. It's been awesome. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to bringing you the information from the GT Heat-Free thing. Kind of feels like it's been a real kind of like pivotal moment within our content up to this point. So Lord knows what we're going to actually talk about once we come out the other end, but I'm sure we'll find something to rattle on about. So, on behalf of me and all the guys here, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you all again soon in 2 more weeks' time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye-bye. Bye now. Bye. Well done on not saying cheerio, Rich. That's why Tim's not here anymore. Can never forgive him.
Okay. I was going to say shiver me timbers.
Oh, there